Shalom, shalom, shalom. Happy Sabbath, happy Sabbath. Shout out all the lockdown massive. All the people who have to stay locked in their house. Big up Seeking Truth, Malak, Linda George, Erica, CC, Ashi, Cola Congo, Ems D2. To go to get away from his purpose. How far was Jonah willing to go to get away from his purpose? Now we know he was willing to go. He had a message to go here to deliver a message. But what did Jonah decide to do? He decided to not go to this place to deliver a message. He's over here somewhere. Israel. Yeah? The Most High put a message on him to bring to these people over here. But he decided to run all the way here to the port, get onto a ship, and hopefully try to travel all the way to here, to Tarshish. Let's read the text. But Jonah rose up to flee unto Tarshish from the presence of Yahuwah, and went down to Joppa, and he found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare thereof, and went down into it to go with them unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. So we know he had a message to give to the Ninevites who reside here. But he was so paranoid and so, had reservations going there that he said, no, sir, I'm going all the way to Tarshish, which is modern day Portugal. So he's willing to go all the way to Portugal so he didn't have to give these fellow Shemites a message in Nineveh. Very, 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 very interesting. If you want to hear some more on this particular study of the Hebrews being expelled from Portugal, you can look at this study here and it'll give you a lot more information. So that's just a bit of trivia while we're waiting for people to join. Now, history. Why is history important? Why is history important? Auntie Deborah said the present is a reflection of the past. If you don't understand the past, then what we see happening in the past is a reflection of the present. So the present is a reflection of the past. To understand today, you have to have at least a brief understanding of yesterday. If somebody said to you 9/11, but you had no understanding of the event, the date would just be nonsense. It wouldn't have any importance. Likewise with Jonah, we just shared the history of Jonah. And if we didn't have the historical account of Jonah, the whole story wouldn't make any sense. What is the Most High able to do? What is the Most High able to do? He says he's declaring the end from the beginning, and from the ancient times, the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will pleasure. And I will do all my pleasure. Yeah? So from the ancient times, from back in the day, the Most High was able to foresee what was going to happen today and give us a timeline and give us a perspective so that when things happen, we're not like everyone else, petrified, scared, and this, that, and the other. We have foreknowledge, so we're forewarned, and we can act accordingly. Okay, now what are we called to do with history? Is history just there to be a novelty? You just dust it occasionally from time to time? What are we supposed to do with history? It says, remember the days of old. So we're supposed to remember the days of old. Then we're supposed to consider the years of many generations. So we're supposed to ponder what happened back then. And it says many generations. It doesn't even say your mom and dad's generation, your granddad's generation. It says many generations. Then we're also supposed to be in a position that when we ask our father, our earthly paternal dad, they're supposed to be able to give us some information about our history. And he will show thee, it says, thy elders, and they will tell thee. So the community, there's supposed to be a community hub. Yeah, there's supposed to be a think tank community hub of our people who are supposed to be dispelling, or should I say distributing, history to the people. Specifically their people, but people in general. All right. Now, what time period of history would the last days reflect? So what time period of history would the last days reflect? Yeshua said in Matthew 24 verse 37, but as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. So the history that Yahushua is asking us to make a mental note of is specifically the history of Noah. Now, the history of Noah is where mankind got wiped out due to sin and iniquity. So it's important, according to Yahushua, according to Yeshua, that we make a mental note of this history and we study this history. So today's study, you'll be happy to know, is based on the days of Noah. And it's going to be looking at when Noah divided the world between his 3 sons. And conversely, it's going to be looking at other things in and around that topic that was happening during that time. Okay. So, this is the book of Jubilees. And in the 7th week, in the 1st year thereof, in this Jubilee, Noah planted vines on the mountain on which the ark had rested, named Lubar, one of the Ararat mountains, and they produced fruit in the 4th year, and he guarded their fruit, and gathered it in this year in the 7th month. And he made wine therefrom, and put it into a vessel, and kept it until the 5th year, unto the 1st day, on the new moon of the 1st month. And he celebrated with joy the day of his feast, and he made a burnt sacrifice unto the Lord, 1 young ox, and 1 ram, and 7 sheep, each a year old, and the kid of the goats, that he might make an atonement thereby for himself and his sons. He prepared the kid first, and placed some of its blood on the flesh that was on the altar. For the 12 o'clock crowd, he's not talking about the kid as in a child. He's talking about a kid as in livestock, which he had made, and all the fat that he laid on the altar where he made the burnt sacrifice, and the ox and the ram and the sheep, and he laid all their flesh upon the altar. And he placed all their offerings mingled with oil upon it, and afterwards he sprinkled wine on the fire, which he had previously made on the altar. And he placed incense on the altar, and caused the sweet savour to ascend acceptable before the Lord his God. Okay, so we looked at this on last study, so I'm not going to go into this too much. The ark landed where it landed. He came off the ark. He guarded the vineyard. He made the wine mature for a period of time, and this, that, and the other. And he made an offering unto the Most High to atone for his sins and for the sins of his people, which is showing that there was already a sacrificial system in place before the Israelites were given the law. Very interesting. There was a sacrificial system in place before even Yasharao was given the law. Interesting. Now, incense was symbolic of what? According to Revelation 8 verse 4, it says, and the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints, ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. So back in the day when there was lighting the incense, literally, physically, tangibly, it was a literal incense that they were doing. But that incense was only symbolic of prayer, praying. We see that in Revelation. So Revelation's decoding what the incense was a type of, Like when Yeshua says, I am the bread of life, he's talking about the bread that was in the sanctuary. And we know that the bread of life is the word. So we have to have the word, and we have to have a prayer life, etc., etc. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so in this particular slide, we want to find out how many drank the wine, who became drunk, how did Noah go to sleep. Jubilee 7, 6-7. And he rejoiced and drank of this wine, he and his children with joy. And it was evening, and he went into his tent, and being drunken, he lay down and slept, and was uncovered in his tent as he slept. So, To answer the first question, how many drank the wine? Noah and his children. The other question is, who became drunk? Genesis 9:21-24. And he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. So everybody drank, but only Noah became drunken. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done unto him. Now, how did Noah go to sleep? It says he was uncovered in his tent. That means he was butt naked, which is okay. He's butt naked, it is what it is. Now, is it sinful to drink wine? Because there's usually a one-sided dimension or one-sided argument, critique when it comes to the wine topic. So let's just explore the wine topic temporarily, and then we're going to bounce back to Jubilees. So, remember in the book of Maccabees, you had the brothers. You had Jonathan, Judas, Simon, etc. And what happened to Simon when he was given an invitation to sit with his enemies or his former enemies? What happened? First Maccabees 16 verse 16. So when Simon and his sons had drunk largely, listen to that word, largely, Ptolemy and his men rose up and took their weapons and came upon Simon into the banquet or into the banqueting place. What did they do? And slew him and his 2 sons and certain of his servants. So they drank largely, and as a result, they were dealt with by their enemies. Interesting. Now, we see Israel was defeated by their enemies when they became drunk. We see Noah in his tent drunk, naked. Not clothed, naked. Maccabees, Simon drunk at the banquet, drunk, and was dealt with by his enemies. Now we see a flip reversal when we look at Judith. Remember Holofernes. Now, and Holofernes took great delight in her. And what did he do? And drank more wine than he had drunk at any time in one day since he was born. This guy was off his face plastered. Yeah? He was gone with the fairies. He was away. But that was the opportunity through his drunkenness for Judith to be able to deal with Holofernes, who was oppressing Israel. We see in the incidents of Simon, Simon became drunk and the enemies of Israel were able to overcome Simon. So is wine or drinking wine wrong? What does Solomon say about drinking wine? He says, "Go thy way, eat thy bread with joy, and drink thy wine with a merry heart, for ye are now accepteth thy works." So it looks like there's a commission to drink wine, and it's supposed to give us a merry heart. Or we're supposed to drink it with a merry heart, should I say. What does Paul say about wine? He says, "Drink no longer water, but use a little wine for thy stomach's sake and for thine often infirmities." So it's like Paul saying that wine has a medicinal property. What does Moses say? "Therefore Yah give thee of the dew of heaven and fatness of the earth and plenty of corn and wine." Okay, so it seems to indicate that we can have wine. Okay, what does it say now regarding the role of a bishop? Bishops are not to be given to what? Now, before we read the verses, let's find out what it says. The phrase "given to" means staying near wine, that is tippling, or to topper. Somebody who's just obsessed with wine. Let's read. For a bishop must be blameless, as the steward of Yahuwah, not self-willed, not soon angry, not given to wine, no striker, not given to filthy lucre. Okay, what about deacons? Likewise must the deacons be grave, not double-tongued, not given to much wine, not greedy of filthy lucre. Okay. What did Solomon again say in the book of Proverbs? They that tarry long at the wine, they that go to seek mixed wine. Now, the argument is made that the wine in the Bible was unfermented, and unfermented wine can make you feel happy. So the argument is that when Paul's talking about wine for wine infirmities, he's talking about fresh wine from the vine, not fermented wine over time. And we see in the case of Noah that he left the wine for a period of time that it would have fermented and turned into an alcoholic beverage. Likewise, Solomon said, they that tarry long at the wine, so they leave it for a process of time to ferment. And then he also talks about those who mix their wine, they mix their drink, making it modern. Some people might have a shot, then have a rum, then have a Guinness, have a Baileys. You're mixing wine, or you're mixing that, you know what I'm saying? You're mixing something that you shouldn't be mixing anyway, this, that, and the other. This guy at the bottom says alcohol is a poison, which it is to a degree and to an extent. So the wine that he's talking about would be fresh wine from fresh grapes, yeah? Because in the Bible it just says wine. It's for you to differentiate between the two. You've got grape, because all wine is a grape, and a grape that's been left over time to mature and ferment, and it turns into wine, etc., etc. So it's clearly saying that we're allowed to drink wine. It's clear as day saying we're allowed to drink wine. The only ambiguity is what wine is it talking about. And the wine we know that it's talking about is by the characteristics that are associated with the wine. When you just drink grape juice, there's no characteristic change, there's no change of mindset, there's no change of behavior. When you drink another type of wine, you become intoxicated with the spirits. But that's another story for another day. So we're seeing that there is a mandate to drink wine, it has medicinal purposes, etc., etc. But let's continue with this thought, and then let's get back to Jubilees. Okay, so it says, why? All right, my question is, what is a glutton? A glutton is somebody who overindulges. Yeah. So let's see what Deuteronomy says. And they shall say unto the elders of the city, this is our son. This our son is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. Proverb 23:21. For the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags. Notice the Bible always puts a glutton, or in this particular example, glutton and drunkard are interchangeable. They're found together in the passage. Now, a glutton is dealing with the consumption of food, and a drunkard is dealing with the consumption of liquid. Interesting. So you can actually be eating a healthy, set apart, clean meat diet, but you can be a glutton by overeating. You can be eating healthy food in an unhealthy way by overindulging. You can be a vegan, vegetarian, Presbyterian, seminarian, and you can be overindulging on those veggie burgers and carrot cakes, and you're a glutton. And you're just as bad as a drunkard. Notice the Bible is dealing with both frames of references, because you're a temple, and it's dealing with what you do physically in terms of what you eat, and also physically in terms of what you drink. And excess in either of those occupations leads to sin. So the lesson ultimately is self-control. How is wine to be drunk? Ecclesiasticus 31:27. Wine is as good as to life to man, if it be drunk moderately. What life is then to man that is without wine? For it was made to make men glad. Wine measurably drunk and in season bringeth gladness of the heart and cheerfulness of the mind. So it seems like there's a concession for even drinking wine that has potentially gone over time. But it says even if you are, you're supposed to drink that measurably and moderately, and you're not supposed to be mixing and blending and all those kind of things there. Let's just finish up on this point now. The lesson overall is temperance. Galatians 5:23, meekness, temperance, against such there is no law. 2 Peter 1:6, and to knowledge, temperance, and to temperance, patience, and to patience, godliness. Okay? Now, Revelation 17:2, it says, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. Now we know this isn't talking about literally them doing fornication, like the kings fornicating. It's symbolic. And it says, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of a fornication. Now, backdrop behind this verse is talking about Babylon. Now you had literal Babylon, place of Nebuchadnezzar and those kinds of people. Then you had this, you had a type of Babylon where people, because Babylon means confusion, or Babel, should I say, means confusion. So Revelation 17:2 is talking about the kings who have committed fornication with this system now. And the inhabitants of the earth have been drunk with the wine of her fornication. In the last days, there will be many like Noah who are drunk, naked, and unable to apply discernment and separate from false practices. In the last days, there will be many like Noah, drunk, naked, unable to apply discernment and separate from false practices. Oftentimes, we single out the papacy, and yes, they have every reason under the sun to be singled out, but we often overlook the hidden hand. We often overlook the hidden hand. I'm just trying to get my arrow in here so you can see what I'm doing. All right, arrow's in there, good to go. So often, a lot of our attention is on this guy, but we fail to acknowledge that this guy is actually in league with these guys. And these guys are the best at blending and code switching to take the attention off them. And most of these guys make up most of the institutions in Christendom. And they actually contribute most of the doctrines in Christendom. And they actually supply the resources for Christendom. So these two entities are in major league with each other. You could call it Labour and Conservative. Behind closed doors, the Labour and the Conservative are best friends, but in the public spotlight, they hate one another. And that's the same system that we see here. And all the kings of the world are in bed financially with this guy and religiously with this guy. These guys control the money and these guys control the religion. And we see how they're in bed with almost every entity. This Masonic regalia is synonymous to Freemasonry. In your own time, research who are the founders behind Freemasonry. It's not just these, it's somebody else too. And in the last days, people will be clinging onto their idols. Now, it's not just about white, black, and yellow, but it's what this actually represents. There's a lot of theology and doctrines associated intimately to this iconography. There's a lot of theology, doctrines integrated with this imagery. Yeah? Very interesting. But okay, I won't ponder the point. Let's continue back to the book of Jubilees. Now, and Ham saw Noah his father naked, and went forth and told his two brethren without. And Shem took his garment and arose, and he and Japheth, and they placed the garment on their shoulders and went backward and covered the shame of their father, and their faces were backward. And Noah awoke from his sleep and knew all that his younger son had done unto him. And he cursed his son and said, Cursed be Canaan, an enslaved servant shall he be unto his brethren. Notice Ham did the transgression, but Canaan got cursed. Canaan was a son of Ham. And he blessed Shem and said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. God shall enlarge Japheth, and God shall dwell in the dwelling of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And Ham knew that his father had cursed his younger son, and he was displeased that he had cursed his son. And he parted from his father, he and his sons with him, Cush and Mizraim, Put and Canaan. And he built for himself a city and called its name after the name of his wife, Ni Elah Tamuk. And Japheth saw it and became envious of his brother. And he too built for himself a city, and he called its name after the name of his wife, Adat Tanis. Adat Tanesi. Okay, the questions in this now was who was upset? Who was upset? Ham, it says in verse 13, was upset that his father cursed his youngest son. Who was cursed? Canaan. Who was to receive a servant? Shem. And also Japheth, when we'll have the Genesis account. Which two brothers built cities? Ham. And who else? Japheth. Verse 14, it says Ham built a city. Verse 15, it says Japheth built a city. Who did they name their cities after? They both named their cities after their wives. If you want to find out more information on this particular study about the misapplication of Canaan's curse and how it's been the bedrock for white supremacy and Christian supremacy of Eurocentric ideals, then I would recommend you watch this to understand why you may have a particular view and why you may have inherited a particular view that you've then gone on to pass on to others without doing your due diligence to verify the claim. Okay, let's continue. Now, Jubilees 7:16 to 19. And Shem dwelt with his father Noah, and he built a city close to his father on the mountain, and he too called its name after the name of his wife, Zedi Eketet Elabab. And behold, there were 3 cities, and behold, these 3 cities are near Mount Luba and Boisa. Let me try to say that again. Zedi Chetelabab, fronting the mountain on its east, and Na'el Tamauk on the south, and Adateneses towards the west. And these are the sons of Shem. So these are the sons of Shem now. Elam, Ashur, Arphaxad, was born 2 years before the flood. And Lud and Aram. Oh, sorry, 2 years after the flood. The son of Japheth, these are the sons of Japheth: Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, Tiraz. These are the sons of Noah. So, which son out of the 3, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, dwelt with Noah? Shem. We see that in verse 16. Which terrain was the city located? It was located on a mountain. How many sons did Shem have? 5. Now, I'll just open this so you can see. So remember we said that Jonah was going to go to Tarshish. So where's my arrow? Arrow. No, I can't put the arrow on. But okay, you can see that for yourself. Let's see if I can put this arrow on a second time. If it works. Okay, it's working now. So he wanted to go to Tarshish. So he wanted to go to the land of Japheth, to Tarshish, because he was supposed to deliver a message to the Assyrians, I believe. The Ninevites were Assyrians. So he was supposed to deliver a message to fellow Shemites from Ashur, the Assyrians, where he went to the land of Japheth, and he wanted to go all the way to Tarshish. Okay, let's continue. And in the 28th Jubilee, Noah began to enjoin upon his sons the ordinances and commandments and all the judgments that he knew. And he exhorted his sons to observe the righteousness and to cover the shame of their flesh. Interesting. Now Noah's trying to reinforce this covering of the flesh. And to bless their creator and honor father and mother and love their neighbor and guard their souls from fornication and uncleanness and all iniquity. And they beget sons, the Nephilim, and they were all unlike, and they devoured one another. And the giants slew the Nephilim, and the Nephilim slew the Elijo, and the Elijo mankind and one another. And everyone sold himself to work iniquity and to shed much blood, and the earth was filled with iniquity. And after this they sinned against the beast and the birds, and all that moves and walks on the earth, and much blood was shed on the earth, and every imagination and the desire of men imagined vanity and evil continually. And the Lord destroyed everything from off the face of the earth because of the wickedness of their deeds, and because of the blood which they had shed in the midst of the earth, he destroyed everything. Now, we know in the Bible it uses a lot of hyperbolical language. When it says it destroyed everything and decimated everything, we know not everything was destroyed because Noah and this, that, and the other was on the boat. Yeah? All right, but what sins, or which main sins brought the flood? Which were the main sins that brought the flood? So the main sins that brought the flood, it said they sinned after the beast and the bird, you know. So there was a lot of bloodshed on the earth too, a lot of killing. And it said every imagination and the desire of men imagined vanity and evil continually. So people were thinking about evil and wanting or desiring to be evil. Interesting. So that was the type of things that was going on. What was the other point that was needed to be brought out? Oh, come back to me. Oh yeah, and they shed much blood, the blood element too. In Acts 15:29, we see a similar mandate from the apostle when it comes to blood and blood shedding and this, that, the other. But more importantly, when it comes to consumption, it says that ye abstain from meat offered to idols, and from blood, and from things strangled, and from fornication, from which if ye keep yourselves, ye shall do well. Fare ye well. We're going to look at the three main sins really that brought about the flood. Was consuming blood consumption, fornication. Now fornication is when you're single and you jumpstart vehicles. But adultery is when you already have a vehicle, but you're jumpstarting other vehicles. Yeah, so there's probably adultery going on as well, not just fornication. And it said they sinned after the beast. Now in England, there's a certain country in England known as Wales, and they have the most inflammatory proverbials aimed at them and their relationship to sheep. They have the most, these proverbials aimed at them in regards to an action that took place with sheep. So these are the actual things that were happening back then. Consumption of blood, fornication, and bestiality. These are the things that were taking place in the days of Noah. But obviously, this only took place in the days of Noah. This doesn't even take place in who eats blood apart from Dracula? Who's doing bestiality? No one really. Who's fornicating? Most people today are married. Married with kids like the program. This stuff ain't going on now, surely. I mean, another point as well, like we don't think on the evil continually. We don't when we see someone getting beat up down the street, take out our phone and record them. No, most people, they intervene, they intercede, they help, they separate their altercation. They don't add fire to the altercation and post it for this, that. Nah, that don't happen. You don't get more likes for something that's vulgar online and less likes for something that's gonna wake people up. Nah, man, that don't happen. Okay. So we know it said it sinned against animals. There was sinning going against animals. Now you could say there was fornicating against animals, doing inappropriate activities with animals. Or you could say they were gene splicing or trying to create hybrids, which is not far fetched. A lot of the artistry of the ancient prehistoric, not prehistoric, antediluvian world, and even post antediluvian world, you see a lot of animals that are not in society today, they're not in circulation today. We see a lot of weird, half man, half beast looking creatures when you look at ancient monuments and relics. I mean, if you look at Dagon, people would say that was somebody putting a fish on their head and acting like a fish head. But what if there was more to that story? There's also, popular, we hear about mythology and legends, but there's some element of truth in mythology and in legends. If you look at the Hindu religion or the Hindu, if you look at India, for example, they, by and large, their religion is Hinduism. And a lot of their deities are elephants or have humanoid elephant similarity. Yeah. Now, most of the people, or there's a high, should I say, concentration of, what's the word? Children that have abnormalities, which they have an additional limb or additional this or an additional that. And it looks somewhat synonymous to the ancient deities that they were worshipping. Now, I'm not saying that Indians are elephants. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that when you check the legend out and the mythology, you'll find a bit of truth somewhere along the line in it to a certain degree, to a certain extent, So that's just very interesting. We know most recently there was experimenting on a pig and a monkey and making a pig and a monkey gene splicing, and then we had this sad-looking excuse for a creature, which we see here with his tongue sticking out, and I think he lasted a couple of days and died. So that's what people are doing today. Then you have this animal here, which is a tiger and a lion, and this, that, and the other. Now, another thing I wanted to share, I think I put the scripture in, but I might have left it out. If a man or a woman, mankind, whatever, if a man or a woman sinned against that animal, because you remember we looked at it last week, the Most High utterly destroyed the animals along with the humankind. It was the humans who sinned, so why did the animals get into trouble? But the Bible says if you sin against beast, then the beast also has to die. Think about it logically though. If you have intercourse with a clean beast, okay, it's not unclean. Let's just imagine, like, all right, not imagine, but it's a scenario. But let's just say guys are fornicating with beasts. The Bible says that the animal is supposed to be put to death. Now, why would you ask? Would you go to the shop, purchase some clean meat, knowing that the farmer had a relationship with that animal? Yah forbid. Likewise, even if some of you might be, interested in trying that product, there's going to be a lot of diseases associated with that product. It's going to be contaminated and thus should be destroyed. I mean, if we have little chocolate being recalled from Cadbury's because of salmonella, or we have products being recalled because of this, that, and the other, is that not a reason to recall a product if something has done that to the product? Absolutely. So we see There's nothing new under the sun, and the method is still the right method. So all these things are happening even today. Mankind is sinning against beast. Mankind are marrying horses. Mankind are marrying dogs, cats. Now, pre-flood, how tall were these giants? And what was it impossible to do? And the woman conceiving brought forth giants, whose stature was each 300 cubits. These devoured all which the labor of men produced, until it became impossible to feed them. How did the giants respond? So let me answer the first question. How tall were these giants? 300 cubits, you know. Now you're probably thinking, why, sir? What is a cubit? You're going to get a comparison. I don't even know what a cubit is, but 300 cubits just seems a bit long. But we're going to get a comparison so then we can make we can process the information. So it became impossible to feed these titans, you could say. So how did the giants or the titans at this point respond? When they turned themselves against men in order to devour them, and began to injure the beasts, the reptiles, and the fish, to eat their flesh one after another, and to drink their blood. So it became impossible to feed and sustain these ginormous giants, which we looked at in our previous study extensively, how these could be by comparing scripture with scripture. So if you haven't watched that, I'd highly recommend you watch that before coming to this part. So anyway, they were enormous. It was impossible to feed them. And when they was unable to be fed by men, they began to eat men, eat birds, reptiles, fishes, and this, that, and the other, and to drink blood. Interesting. Now, remember I said for a comparison, let's have a comparison. 1 Samuel 17 verse 4. How tall was Goliath? How tall was Goliath? And there went out, one second. Okay. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. 6 cubits and a span, you know. Interesting. He was 6 cubits and a span. Okay. Now you know that King Saul was relatively a tall guy. The Bible said he was head and shoulders above the rest. And that's probably where you get that shampoo Head and Shoulders from. But I'm digressing. So King Saul was head and shoulders tall. Very tall guy. Handsome looking guy apparently. Yeah? Tall, handsome, good looking dude. Okay, cool. Now, when this tall man of Benjamin was faced with this Goliath of Gath, he recoiled because Goliath was tall, very tall in comparison to him. Okay. But guess what? It says that Goliath was only 6 cubits and a span. So he's pretty tiny. That's what it says there. Or wait there. Now let me do this here. Here it says 300 cubits. Oh gosh, let me make this come up. Now, where's this thing? So apparently Goliath was about that height. And King Og was about that height. Deuteronomy 3:11. These guys were somewhere. I could be. I'm not gonna be dogmatic, but in comparison, these guys were way taller than Goliath. Way taller than Goliath. Way taller than Goliath. Goliath was a small fry in comparison to the originals. You know, that's very interesting to note. Now, there was another guy post flood, same time as Goliath. Goliath was post flood. Yeah. First Chronicles 11:23. Now this was a Hamite, and it says, and he slew an Egyptian, a man of great stature. Now, how tall was this Egyptian of great stature? We've just mentioned that Goliath was 6 cubits in a span. Now, how tall was this Egyptian, a man of great stature? It says, and he slew an Egyptian, a man of great stature, 5 cubits high, and in the Egyptian's hand was a spear like a weaver's beam, and he went down to him with a staff, and plucked the spear out of the Egyptian's hand, and slew him with his own spear. Boy, some of the men of Yashara were hardcore. Okay, so he was only 5 cubits. So post-flood, 5 cubits, and post-flood, Goliath was only 6 cubits? 6 cubits and a span. Now, let's see what Judith says. What were the original giants known as? What were the original giants known as? I think in Ireland as well, there's a place called the Giant's Causeway. Yeah, and it's just, I'll get into that another day. But all right, boom. What were the original giants known as? It says, for the mighty one. This is talking about Holofernes. But yeah, so it's talking about Holofernes in the book of Judith. And background to the story is, they're saying that Holofernes, who is one of the officials for Babylon, they're surprised that this man of renown, this soldier, this Babylonian soldier, that he was killed in a particular way. Like, he didn't die from a war or a battle. He just died from a woman. That's the background to this verse. So it says, Judith 16 verse 7. For the mighty one, talking about Holofernes, did not fall by the young men. So it weren't the young men who killed Holofernes. Neither did the sons of the Titans smite him. So it weren't even the sons of Goliath. So the sons of the Titans, yeah, that's in reference to, the giants and them people that are there. But hear this though, let me read that again. For the mighty one did not fall by the young men, didn't fall by the youth. Neither did the sons of the Titans smite him. Interesting. Nor high giants set upon him. So notice it's distinguishing two types. It's saying the sons of the Titans, who are really, really tall. And then it's saying nor high giants, referencing to Goliath and them man there, isn't it? But it says, but Judith, the daughter of Merai, weakened him with the beauty of her countenance. We know the guy was sprung like T-Pain. She had him washing up the dishes, anything he wants for some kisses. And he just got drunk, and she dealt with him. Yeah? And that's what happened in that story. But just notice how it talks about 3 different classifications of people. It says mankind, the sons of the Titans, and the giants. Interesting. And we left I and you, my sons, and everything that entered with us into the ark. And behold, I see your works before me, that you do not walk in righteousness. For in the path of destruction you have begun to walk, and ye are departing one from another, and are envious one of another. And so it comes that ye are not in harmony, my sons, each with his brother. So we see Ham, Shem, Japheth, they had some brother beef, which is not limited to this story. We see Jacob and Esau had beef. We see Joseph and his brothers had beef. We see Cain and Abel had beef. So there's always been brother beef. We see David and his sons had beef with one another. So there's always been there's always been dysfunctionality within the family, you know? So it says, for I see and behold, the demons have begun their seduction against you and against your children. And now I fear on your behalf that after my death ye will shed the blood of men upon the earth, and that ye too will be destroyed from the face of the earth. For whosoever sheddeth man's blood, and whosoever eateth the blood of any flesh, shall be destroyed from the earth. And there shall not be left any man that eateth blood, or that sheddeth the blood of man on the earth, nor shall there be left to him any seed or descendants living under heaven. For in Sheol, that is the grave, shall they go, and into the place of condemnation shall they descend, and into the darkness of the deep shall they all be removed by a violent death. Now obviously this is a continuation of a study that we did previously. We know when the ark landed, they were introduced to a new diet, and that new diet was the consumption of animal products. But there was prohibitions in place where you had to eat clean animal products, and you also had to eat the clean animal products in a clean way. So you can, be eating your I don't know, your lamb and your chicken and your turkey, and you can still be eating those clean meats in an unclean way. If you've got the vein, if you've got raw, or what do they call it? Rare meat, where the blood's dripping out of it to the extent that you could resuscitate it and give it the breath of life, and the animal could come back. So if you're eating blood, or you're eating food like that, you're eating meat like that, where it's just bloody, then even though you're eating something, you're not eating a pig, you might as well just be eating a pig, because in the Most High's eyes, you're eating clean food in an unclean way. So who is Satan's angels trying to seduce? Notice Noah was saying, the demons have begun to take seductions against you and against your adults. Is that what he says? Against your occupation. Against your conversation. No? What does it say? We're going to see how, stay with this point now, the next two slides. Why is that? All right, stay with the thing. So, for I see and behold, the demons have begun their seductions against who? You, the dads, and against your children. So he's doing its seduction against you, Shem, Ham, Japheth, but it's also doing it against your children. And now I fear on your behalf, dads, that after my death, ye will shed the blood of men upon the earth, your brothers, nephews and nieces and whatever, because you're all related at this point, and that ye too will be destroyed from the face of the earth. For whosoever sheddeth man's blood, and whosoever eateth the blood of any flesh, so see again, the prohibition wasn't on eating flesh, but eating the blood, shall be destroyed from the earth. And there shall not be left any man that eateth blood. Now, come on, man. This is 2020. People don't eat blood today. People don't eat blood today. There's no demons going around seducing people today. This is fairy tales. This is Mary Poppins. This is cat dog. Yeah, these things don't happen today. Surely. Okay. So who is Satan's angels trying to seduce today? Interestingly, there's an image right in front of you. I'm going to get my arrow. Get my little arrow there. So interestingly, this is I was going to say synagogue of Satan, but this is a Satan temple or devil temple or whatever you want to call it. And inside the temple, they got the Behemoth, a creature with horns, animalistic, but with a human phenotype or a human body. Notice it's got wings. Very interesting. Wings, which are very much synonymous with angelic or angels. Notice it's got horns though. Notice in the middle, there's a star. It looks like the Star of David. Now we know there's no star. All right. We know there's no Star of David, but there's a star in the middle of the forehead there. Yeah. Then we have two snakes wrapped around a pole or wrapped around a stick. Then we have this gesture with the fingers. He's gesticulating with his hand a particular gesture. Then there is a European child looking up to this deity. Conversely, there is a Shemite looking up to this deity. You got Japheth and Shem looking up to this deity. It's got some hairy legs. Probably hasn't had a shave for a while. But it looks like a goat. And it's got a star on its head. Interesting. It's doing a particular gesture. Really interesting. It's got a snake and wood. I'm trying to burn this particular thing into your head because the next slide you're going to see me like, raw. Okay, so that's that. Okay, we'll leave that how it is. First Timothy 4 verse 1. Now the Spirit speak of expressly. That means like, boy, expressly, express delivery. Please take heed. Now the Spirit speak of expressly that in the latter times, the last days, some shall depart from the faith. Why? Giving heed to seducing spirits, and what else? And the doctrines of devils. Okay. Surely that don't happen today though. There's none of this going on today. You know, everyone's super Christian now. Now Kanye West has come onto the scene. In fact, there's been an influx in Christianity and in Bible scholarship and this, that, and the other. Surely this verse is it can't be right. Let's continue. Okay. So these are the types of seducing spirits that now exist today in the world, by and large. Notice we looked at Revelation where it said the whole world will become drunk with the wine of Babylon. Now it's not talking about Nebuchadnezzar giving you a drink, like Nebuchadnezzar, who's the king of Babylon. It's not talking about Nebuchadnezzar coming to your house and giving you a fresh beverage of wine. It's talking about the system of Babylon, which was the opposite of the Most High. Everyone's going to be drunk with a system that's opposite of the Most High. And it's going to be so convincing that people actually think they're doing the Most High a service when all they're doing is a disservice because they're in an institution of falsehood and lies. Now, seducing spirits. Netflix come out with a film recently, or not a film, series, whatever you want to call it. And it's trying to make Satan into a good guy. It says, and I quote, "Just think of me as your guardian devil." And that's from the TV series Lucifer on Netflix. Disney has a long reputation of trying to win sympathy for the devil. In a lot of their cartoons, there's a lot of sympathy towards the devil, which is ultimately conditioning the youth, the children, to rebellion. So we see that Satan, like we saw here, has his eyes set on the children. The children are looking up to this deity in reverence. Notice there's no adults. There's no people that are long in the tooth. There's no adults present. It's youth. And black and white tends to typify the whole world, black and white. And we know black and white is Masonic language also. Black for darkness, white for light, and all this kind of silliness that these people go on with, you know? So it's just a perfect representation of the whole, Satan having the whole youth, black and white, looking up to him. Interesting. Now, again, Twilight, a film about this woman in the middle. About this woman in the middle, and she falls in love with this beast. I don't even know the story. I just know it's about bestiality and necromancy. But this chick here, she falls in love with this guy, I believe, and he's a beast. I think he's a werewolf, and she wants to have a relationship with a werewolf, a dog. And then this guy is actually dead, vampire, and she wants to have a relationship with a vampire who's dead, so a corpse, and that's called necromancy. Having interrelations with a dead person is called necromancy. Having interrelations with a beast is called bestiality. And then you got the most infamous thing here. What's this again? King Kong. Yeah? And we know this is supposed to be an indirect to the Congo. But that's another story for another day. So he's supposed to represent a black man, and that's again supposed to represent a white woman. Yeah? Again, we see the same symbol here. Black man, white woman. This entity here, this Star of David entity here, is the one who's fermenting the blended relationships that we see so prevalent via his industry, the media. Very interesting. All right, so that's that. Oh gosh. All right, put him there. Then we see love wins. Remember, we looked at last Sabbath how for every truth there's a counterfeit. Not the Most High. This Satan is a counterfeit for everything the Most High does. So the Most High says love is obedience. Satan says love is disobedience. Do as you will. Do what you want. God loves you anyway. Love, love, love. But it's a fluffy, sugary, sugar-based, sugar-laced, diabetic version of love. That if you keep on eating from that jar, you're going to die. You're going to die. Now, again, this whole love dynamic is now being used to champion this particular community, but it's also being used to champion this particular community, which is Islam, Buddhism, science, Judaism, paganism, Wiccan, and Christianity. Coexist. Seducing spirits. Love wins. So seducing spirits is not always the things that are overtly evil. Like that just looks like, if you saw that on the street, you just come and be like, rah, evil, and you kind of run it, leg it, whatever. But sometimes evil doesn't come like this. Evil doesn't come like this. And notice again, guys, if your eagle eye sharp, horns on the head. Horns on the head. Again, horns on the head. Horns on the head. Go back to this. Horns on the head. Horns on the head. Animalistic. The programming, Beauty and the Beast. The programming, King Kong. Trying to get these two in a relationship to take, you know what I'm saying? The agendas, I could just do a whole, I should probably do a study just exposing the industry like that, you know, because it's so simple, because half the time we blast our people and say, yeah, man, yeah, sell out this, sell out that, not knowing that it's the wine of Babylon that's programming her and programming him and programming him and programming her. And most people are unawares. They're unawares. Yeah? Unawares. When I grew up, I had the mentality that I wanted to be like this guy here, fascinated by this only. And these girls sometimes grow up with the mentality of wanting nothing but this only. And it's because of the conditioning of the media. But that's another story for another day. Okay, so sorcery, drugs, and the occult. Now, we know these things don't happen. There's no influx of sorcery, drugs, and the occult today. You know, probably happened back then in Noah's day, you know. But today, everyone's a lot more spiritual now. You know, everyone's spiritual. That's the buzzword that people say. They're spiritual. Okay. Enoch 9, 5-6. For thou hast seen what Azael has done, how he has taught every species of iniquity upon the earth, and has disclosed to the world all the secret things which are done in the heavens. So he taught iniquity. and secret things. Now, the occult or esoteric is just a nice, posh, fancy word of saying hidden or secret. So when you say that word, that fancy word that says occult, all it is saying is secret or hidden knowledge. That's all it means. There's nothing, for want of a better word, magical about that word. It's pretty a cowardish word, to be honest, trying to hide things from people. The Most High has His word there for people to read on display, you know. Obviously, only the wise will want to read it, and only the wise will want to pursue it. But it's there for everyone to see. Now let's just see again. Now Samzaya also has taught sorcery. To whom has given authority over those who are associated with him. They have gone together to the daughters of men, have lain with them, have become polluted. Okay, we looked at this immensely again last study. I know people are like, it doesn't mean that. Okay, we looked at it last Sabbath, so we're not going to go into there today because we covered it extensively. So let's just read it as it reads. So it's talking about sorcery, occult knowledge, and fornicating with spirits, or fornicating with this, that, and the other. But let's leave that last one out for now, and let's just focus on sorcery and occult knowledge. Now, do you know sorcery also took place in the book of Acts too? Acts 8 verse 9. There was a certain man called Simon, which before time in the same city used sorcery and bewitched the people of Samaria, giving out that himself was some great one. So this guy, this charlatan, a charlatan means somebody who pretends they have a gift that they don't have, or they're so deceived that I don't know. But charlatan just means somebody who has a gift, says they have a gift that they don't have. So making it practical, you call for a plumber and the plumber comes out and the plumber can't even change a tap, but yet he calls himself a plumber. So you had this guy who was saying that he was a prophet or he was a man of Yah, but he was using sorcery to bewitch people. Yeah? So, from Greek, pharmakia means the use of drugs, medicines, potions, or spells, poisoning, witchcraft. Or it means a preparer of drugs, poisoner, or sorcerer. Drug, poison, charm. At the moment, we're facing a seriously serious epidemic called the corona virus. It's such a massive, unpredictable epidemic that the world has been caught off guard. Not really. A lot of people have been preparing for this for a long time, especially the CDC. Even in Birmingham now, they're looking to make a morgue by the Birmingham airport to facilitate the increase in death that may happen due to the corona outbreak. So there's been certain things in place for a long time, but only us at the grassroots are finding out the extent and the severity now. But nevertheless, people are using all manner of sorcery, drugs, vaccinations to give people poison and ultimately to remove poison. So they're starting the fire and then giving you the hose to put out the fire. They're causing the situation and then giving you the solution. That's what sorcery is. It's mind games. It's giving with one hand and taking with the other. Now, the biggest sorcerer when it comes to our youth is entertainment. Is Walt Disney is just one of many. But let's just use Walt Disney as a case study. 33 Degree Mason. My wife said something interesting on our little walk, our nature walk that we do, just out just walking around away from all the distractions. And she was like, the Mason thing, is it 33? That's the highest degree. And I was like, I believe so, that's what they say it is. And she goes, that's interesting because they like to copy Yeshua and they revere Yeshua as a sorcerer. or a magician or whatever they want to call him. I said, okay. And they said, what age did Yeshua die? I was like, 33. And she was like, don't you see? It could be linked to that. And I was like, boy, that's interesting. Never really thought about it like that. But, you know, these guys, they like to mix and blend, fake and pretend, you know? But now we're definitely living in a society where there's a lot of sorcery happening from pharmaceutical industry and from the occult hidden knowledge that they put out in their films to manage consent, predictive programming, and to engineer compliance. Hence why, with all these things that are going on now, people are looking at films for solutions because they're going to show them how they want them to go in their films, which is neither here or anywhere. But I'm just going to show you, I'm trying to highlight the severity of what's going on behind the scenes. Now, many of us are thinking, yeah, man, thanks for that. Blasting the occult, blasting the occult. Now, probably lose a couple of people now. Which day would you say is the most occultish day, or one of, let me save myself by saying one of, which is one of the most occultish days of the year? Which day would you say, boy, that's a really occultish day of the year? Which day would you say, nah, man, that's a really, really, really occultish day of the year? I'll wait for a few responses and then I'll just continue. So I'll give you a 10-second window. Just type in what day you think is the really, really, really bad day. What's a really, really bad day? or what is a really high day for the occult? And then we'll see if you're right or wrong. Sunday, Halloween, okay. Christmas, Sunday. Okay. Sunday, Easter, Christmas, Sunday, so many Christmas. All right. So there's a plethora. Now I'm so glad I said I'm gonna save myself by saying one of, because there probably is another which is equally as bad. But I'm gonna just concentrate on this particular one just for now, momentarily, because it kind of gets overlooked and kind of gets sterilized as clean and baptized as holy and set apart as Kadesh. So hence, I'm going to expound on this one. Now, if this is one that you do, then I advise you to stay tuned even fervently. So let's continue. The next one, you know, because it's easy to say, yeah, man, I don't have no Ouija board. I'm not into no Freemasonry. I don't do no drugs. Nah, man, I'm not into the occult knowledge and esotericism. Okay, cool. Bravo. Clap. What about this one, though? Because many of us have been engulfed in this one. Even I was engulfed in this one. Everyone has had their toe, their nail, or whatever, you know, has been a part of this one. Now, before we get to the answer, I'm going to go backwards and just show you the horns, the face, the imagery, who this image represents. And interestingly, in the occult, Satan has two names because he has two characters in the occult. You have the Satanist, who presents Satan like this, evil. Then you have the Luciferians, the light bearers. They are portraying Satan as a good guy. So in the occult, or in these communities, these enlightened, illuminated communities, you have Lucifer presented as a good guy. I'm just here to help. You know? Then you have him presented as just a straight up demon. Okay, make a mental note for a reason. Then, before we go to the answer, here he is here, horns again. If you've ever watched Hercules, you see the you know Phil who trains Hercules? that guy there is based on the god Pan or Panic, and Pan used to have intercourse with goats and sheep and all that kind of stuff. Another story for another day. But they've often got a goatish appearance to them. The Bephomoth. It's got wings, which would signify an angel. Yeah. Notice this: a stick, a wooden stick, and a snake wrapping itself around the stick. Yeah? Okay, cool. You ready to have that answer now, yeah? Now, like I said, this is not the be all or end all, but this is just one of, yeah? So to put everyone out of misery, now I'm saying again, this is one of, because I know you have people arguing, nah man, it's this, because of it. All right, calm, put that to bed. But I'm saying this is one of the most. Which is one of the highest occult days? You guessed it. If you guessed it, Christmas. Yeah, Sunday is bad. Yeah, we get that. But that's blatant once you come into truth and you know that the seventh day isn't the first day and the first day isn't the seventh day and it's just been changed and this, that, and the other. Yeah, cool, that's fine. But with the Sabbath, you don't have a 25-day calendar countdown. With the Sabbath, you don't have a peer pressure metaphorical headlock to purchase items for people you don't like and spend money on things that you don't need, to get into debt that you don't want, to have a divorce that's not healthy, to get drunk that's not wise, to have an affair which isn't decent, and to commit suicide because of the consequences, to drink drive because you were merry, and to go home with a head that's heavy. These things take place and are endorsed at the pulpits because generally people would tithe more. People will give a large offering. It's my Christmas offering. It's Jesus' birthday. I'm gonna tithe 20%. I'm gonna give a massive offering today. It's Jesus' birthday. So you see a lot of people doing a lot of crazy things on this particular day, especially. Now I'm gonna briefly decode the thing, break it down. Yep. Okay. Again, Revelation says in regards to this sorcery, it even links sorcery in the inventory of idolaters and liars. Sorcerers, idolaters and liars. On this particular day, all of this stuff happens. The Christmas spirit. 'Tis the season to be jolly. Cha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. A lot of these things happen. Idolatry happens in abundance. Lying to the kids in abundance. Santa came and brought you that toy car. So there's a lot of lying. Now, just to break it down very quickly and swiftly before people become annoyed that we're looking at Christmas. At Christmas, you usually have a star on top of the tree. Now we know star is synonymous to angel. Hence why you sometimes have an angel, you sometimes have a star. Star, angel, and star are the same. Now, you have the tinsel going around the tree. So you have an angel that fell, took on the character of a snake, came to Eve for the snake, offered Eve some fruit from the tree. Eve ate the fruit, gave to Adam, and mankind fell into sin. This tree is a sign of worship. There's other symbols that you could add to this and take away from this, but it's a sign of worship. Notice we had that image of the wood and the snake wrapped around it. This is what it meant back in the day too. So it's a high occult day of rebellion. It's actually a day of worship of Nimrod and all these kind of other deities too, but it's a high emblem of rebellion and freedom from Yah. It's a day of worship of freedom from Yah. But incidentally, they wrap it up as if it's Yeshua's birthday, December the 25th. But really, it's a icon of rebellion from Yah. Fallen angel, snake, fruit, this, that, the other. Very interesting. And originally, the character for for Christmas was Krampus, and Krampus was a what do you call it? I don't even know what you call that kind of animal. Well, it looks pretty much the same: hairy legs, horns, tail, just missing the wings. But it looks pretty much like this guy here. High pagan day. To add more salt to injury, Old Nick, Merriam-Webster's definition, is used as a name of the devil. How to use Old Nick in a sentence. There's another one I had as well where it says that the devil is Old Nick and Old Nick is the devil. Yeah, it's one and the same. So that's just that. So yeah, people are very brave and brazen to lambast Disney and the 33 Degree Masons and, I don't do this and I don't do that. But I guarantee most people, if not, compromise on this. Now, I don't celebrate it. I'm not being a false witness on this one because I don't take heed to the day. My kids don't take heed to the day. My kids lambast the day and teach people about the origins and errors of this day. So I'm not saying this as a mockingbird or saying this as a hypocrite. Like, we just don't participate in this day at all. Yeah. But I know some people it'd be difficult for you to shift it because for whatever reason. But that is very much a high occult day. And here you see the day Krampus would sacrifice children to. There was children sacrifice also included on that day. So much perversion took place on this particular day. Had many different names over the course of time. Saturnalia, Winter Solstice, High Wicca. So many names. What was a major taboo that Noah reminded his sons about? What was he always reminding his sons about? Now, and ye shall not be like him who eats with blood, but guard yourself that none may eat blood before you. Cover the blood, for thus I have been commanded to testify to you and your children together with all flesh. And suffer not the soul to be eaten with the flesh, that your blood, which is your life, may not be required at the hands of any flesh that sheds on the earth. For the earth will not be cleaned from the blood which has been shed upon it. Only through the blood of him that shed it will the earth be purified throughout all its generations. Hallelujah for the blood of Yeshua, man. Because a lot of people, boy, they'll be cold right now. Because the amount of times people have probably killed people in their heart, their mind, this, that, and the other. But let's continue. And now, my children, hearken, work judgment and righteousness, that ye may be planted in righteousness over the face of the whole earth, and your glory lifted up before my God, who saved me from the waters of the flood. Now, what was the major taboo Noah reminded the sons of Noah about? He reminded them to abstain from eating blood. I don't know what it is, but because of these programs and people being programmed by the program, what do I mean? Like we said earlier, the occult, Twilight, it's about necromancy, vampirism, eating blood, drinking blood, whatever. A lot of these films that are out now or that have been out previously, the occult teaches, sacrifices, blood offerings, blood this, blood that, what film? You could probably fill in the blanks, But going back to this blood eating, a lot of kids now watching certain... What's that? Oh, yeah, there was a program, actually. I don't even know what's it called. And there's a girl that's eating blood or eating a heart or some dragon heart. I don't even know what the thing's called. Yeah, but that... Is it Hunger Games or something? Hunger Games or... I don't know. But you see this drive towards blood consumption. The drive towards blood consumption. Now, last study, we looked at how the royal family and the aristocracy about 300 and 400 years ago were deeply involved in the black market of smuggling, shuffling blood, and oftentimes at executions, if the executed was somebody of nobility, aristocracy, or of that order or that hierarchy, rank, whatever, people would flood. Can you imagine this? This is the psyche, you know. People would flood to where the execution took place so that they could scoop up some blood because they thought the blood had medicinal purposes. That was during the Dark Ages. Fast forward, we get to the time of Americas, and we had people bloodletting, getting rid of blood because they thought that the blood had, so you had two frames of thought: taking random blood, and then fast forward, draining all types of blood as a way of saving lives. But anyway, boom, bang, bing. So you have Ben Groves there, SAS soldier for the United Kingdom, eating some raw blood. I think it might be a heart that he's eating. Now, people are like, but who really does that though? That's just Bear Grylls. Like, we don't eat blood. Come on. It's 2020. I think he's stuck in the Stone Age. Okay, cool, bang, bam, bam. Now, many people might not eat what he's eating there, but I guarantee many people eat some black pudding. Not you guys, but, in general. Black pudding is on the menu. And black pudding, like I said previously, is coagulated pig's blood. Okay, what's coagulated? Dry pig's blood. Okay, what's another word for dry blood? A scab. So people are eating pig scab with salt and pepper, and it looked like them have lettuce and tomato. Yeah, so lettuce, tomato, and pig scab. That's what people are eating. All right, let people be people, misinformed. It's only a pig scab. Okay. Then in Spain, they've started rolling out this thing called the Mesilla blood sausage. Mesilla blood sausage. And some of these Mesilla blood sausages have human blood in them. So it's actually human blood. So you're eating your best friend Jerry and your best friend Sanita. You're eating their dried scab with salt and pepper, lettuce and tomato. Interesting. Okie dokie. Jubilee 7:35 to 39. And behold, ye will go and build for yourselves cities, and plant in them all the plants that are upon the earth, and moreover all fruit-bearing trees. For 3 years the fruit of everything that is eaten will not be gathered, and in the 4th year its fruit will be accounted holy, and they will offer the first fruits acceptable before the Most High Yah, who created heaven and earth and all things. Let them offer in abundance the first of the wine and oil and first fruits of the altar of the Lord. Who receives it, and what is left, let the servants of the house of the Lord eat before the altar which receives it. And in the 5th year, make ye release, so that ye release it in righteousness and uprightness, and ye shall be righteous, and all that your plant shall prosper. So there's a period of cultivation, a period of abstinence, and a period of gathering, and a period of sharing. That was the ecosystem. You take, you rest, you share, this, that, and the other. It wasn't supposed to be selfish, self-serving, but it was supposed to be self-sustainable and sustainable for everybody else. For thus did Enoch, so Enoch did this, the father of your father, command Methuselah his son, and Methuselah his son Lamech, and Lamech commanded me all these things which his father commanded him. And I also will give you commandment, my sons, as Enoch commanded his sons in the first Jubilee, while still living, the 7th in his generation, he commanded and testified to his sons and to his sons unto the day of his death. Yeah? Now, this is talking about Noah. Noah testified unto the day of his death. Now, in the account of Noah, it's like he preached, he saved the world. Well, the Most High saved him in the ark. Then he came out of the ark, and then Noah just goes missing, really. You don't really hear about Noah apart from the sacrifices, and then it goes to his sons, then it goes to Babel, then it goes to Abraham, and then that's pretty much it. So Noah wasn't just preaching, was it 120 or 130, no, 120 years or 130 years before the flood. He was also doing work after the flood too. So if you get this timeline up, so we know Enoch was taken, Noah here. So he kind of lived up to. He would have seen Shem, obviously. He would have seen Arphaxad, Selah, Eber, Peleg, this, that, and the other. So, according to Genesis, and all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. All right. Arphaxad married a daughter of and called. What did his son find? Why did he say nothing? In the 29th Jubilee, in the first week, in the beginning thereof, Arphaxad took to himself a wife, and her name was Rasajah, the daughter of Susan, the daughter of Elam, and she bare him a son in the third year in this week, and he called his name Canaan. And the son grew, and his father taught him the writing, and he went to seek for himself a place which he might seize for himself a city, and he found the writing which former generations had carved on a rock, and he read what was thereon, and he transcribed it, and sinned owning it, for it contained the teaching of the watchers in accordance with which they used to observe the omens of the sun, moon, stars, in all the signs of heaven. And he wrote it down and said nothing regarding it, for he was afraid to speak to Noah about it, lest he should be angry with him on this account. So Arphaxad married a daughter of who? He married a daughter of Elam, and she bare him he married a daughter of Elam, and and the daughter was called. Took himself a wife, Razu, the daughter of Susan, the daughter of Elam. Yeah, Susan and Elam. That's what I meant to say in that part. So it's Susan, a daughter of Elam. Yeah, you're gonna see why I mentioned all of that in the next slide. What did the son find? So what did this son find? So Arphaxad is a son of Shem, and Elam is also a son of Shem. Yeah. And what did he find? He found the writings of the former generations, the watchers. So the knowledge that they had, this hidden, occult knowledge. Yeah. He found it. And we know the Most High wiped out the old world because of this knowledge that wasn't supposed to be trickled down, and they trickled it down, and mysticism and thisism and this schism and all these kind of things came out. So the old earth was wiped out, and the creations and the hybrids were wiped out also. So this guy, it says that he found it on a rock, he read it, and he's transcribed it. So he wrote it down, and it contained the teaching of the watchers in accordance with the omens of the sun, the moon, stars, etc., etc. And he knew that he was in error, and he knew that he was being naughty, because he said he wrote it down, and he said nothing to his granddad Noah about it, lest he should be angry with him on the account of it. Okay, now Susa was an ancient city of the Proto-Elamite, the first Persian Empire, Seleucid, Parthian, Sasanian empires of Iran, and one of the most important cities of the ancient Near East. It's located in the lower Zagros Mountains, about 25 kilometers east of Tigris River, between yada yada. Okay, the reason I highlighted that is because we see that the daughter is called what? Susan. Yeah? Susan, daughter of Elam, bare a son. We go to the same place today. We see the same names, We looked at this last time more intricately. Susa. Yeah? Susa. Susan, Susa. Elamite. Still see embedded in the Indian culture. The Elamites were the ancient Indians. The Indians were the ancient Persians. The Indians that you see today are very pale in comparison to the Indians or the Persians or those people of old. They were very dark, a very dark complexion. Yeah? Now, interestingly, all right, we're saying, okay, so that happened, what? Days of Noah, some time ago, that one of his grandsons took down and kept the knowledge of the occult going. Yeah, so that was a very long time ago. Yeah. But then we read in Acts 19, verse 19, we see that this hidden knowledge, this fallen angelic knowledge, was even being practiced in Acts 19, verse 19. It says many of them also, which used curious arts, brought their books together and burned them before all the men. And they counted the price of them and found it 50,000 pieces of silver. So we see that from Noah even to post Yeshua, yeah, time of the apostle Paul, so post all of that stuff, from Genesis now we're at the time of Paul, people have been dilly-dallying, dibble-dabbling with this occult, hidden, esoteric hogwash, yeah? So it's been going on for a long time. So I just wanted to highlight there, this esoterical thing has been about, it originated with a certain type of people that we looked at last time. The whole world was wiped out in abundance due to what took place, the sin. One of Noah's posterity found the writings, transcribed it, and cascaded it down again. We get all the way to the time of Paul. We see it here. We see it in the time of Paul. Now, if we fast forward, we see these same writing, these same ideologies, even today in present time, through the vehicle and medium of media. Where people are being programmed to accept this new age religion, this new age spirituality. All right, now a bit of trivia. Very simple game. This is called Bible or No. Is this in the Bible or no? Now, before we start here, I don't want any people cheating. I know some people are going to try to cheat, but try not to cheat. Try not to cheat. Bible or no, that's it. Yeah? Don't go on Google. Don't ask Siri. Yeah? Pretend Siri's on lockdown too. Google, don't ask them outlets. Bible or no, that's it. If you cheat, you cheat, it's cool. But let's continue, yeah? Bible or no. Okay. First scripture, I think I'll get it away. All right. Is this found in the Bible or no? Separate thyself from thine enemies and take heed of thy friends. Is that found in the scriptures? Yes or no? Okay, some saying yes, some saying no. Come on, guys, make the responses quick. So Jules be saying yes, somebody saying no, somebody saying yes, somebody saying no, somebody saying no, somebody saying yes, somebody saying yes, somebody saying no. Okay, it's a variation, varied response. Yes, no, no, yes, yes, no, no, yes. Okay, all right. So is that somebody put clueless? I love the honesty, Somebody put clueless. All right, shout out the clueless people. Is this found in the Bible? Yay or nay? Nay or yay? Okay, I'll answer the question to put people's minds at ease. No, don't quote it if you know or whatever. This is found in the Bible. If you want to find where this is in the Bible, go to Ecclesiasticus 6:13. Ecclesiasticus 6:13, and you'll find this scripture. It says, separate thyself from thine enemies and take heed of thy friends. Separate yourself from your enemies and take heed of thy friends. Ecclesiasticus 6 verse 13. Okay. Next one. For there is a shame that bringeth sin, and there is a shame which is glory and grace. There is a shame that bringeth sin, and there is a shame which is glory and grace. So guys, is this in the Bible? A bit of trivia, just to slow down the pace. Is this a yay or a nay? Is this a yay or a nay? Don't Google it, don't Siri it, don't Bible app it, don't cheat, even though I know some people are going to cheat. Is this yay, nay, or are you clueless like the person who said clueless? Okay, no, yes, no, yes, 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 no, yes. All right. No, no, a conundrum. Okay, okay, okay. I'll put people out of their misery. Let's read it. For there is a shame that bringeth sin, and there is a shame which is glory and grace. Now listen to this. Nebuchadnezzar said in Daniel chapter 4, I have built this kingdom. I am the best. I am Rick Ross. I am the boss. I've got the gold chain so I can floss. That's what Rick Ross, Nebuchadnezzar said in Daniel chapter 4. He was showing off, bigging up his chest, and the Most High dealt with him and had to humble him. And he went crazy. He was growing nails like talons. He had a beard bigger than an Arab in the desert. He was just a mess. But then through his shame, he came back to his senses. So it says there is a shame that bringeth sin. So when Nebuchadnezzar did that, he brought sin upon himself. He shamed himself and brought forth sin. That's just one example. There's many examples I can pull out. And then it says, and there is a shame which is glory and grace. Same with Nebuchadnezzar. But also Paul, remember Paul? He had to walk with a limp. He had to walk with a mobility issue. It was a shame, but it was glory and grace. We can go here, there, and everywhere with other examples, but they're just two that I just thought at the top of my head. All right, boom, bang, bing. Let's see the next one. Now, Bible or no? Okay. Make. Oh, did I tell you where that one was? That was Ecclesiasticus 4:21. All right, next one. Is this in the Bible or no? Bible or no? Make not thyself an underling to a foolish man, neither accept the person of the mighty. Make not thyself an underling to a foolish man, neither accept the person of the mighty. Some people are saying yes. Is number 3? Is it found in the Bible? Yes or no? Is it yes or is it no? Okay, a lot of people are saying yes. Okay, you guessed correctly. Ecclesiasticus again, 4:21. Oh, actually, what is it? 4:27. Now, this one is, if thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him. If thou wouldest get us the friend, prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him. Ecclesiasticus 6, verse 7. Ecclesiasticus 6, verse 7. So, to answer the question, all of those scriptures can be found in the Bible. Yeah? Now, people are going to ask, what Bible? That's a good question. King James Version, 1611. We looked at this previously last week when we looked at how the Bible versions, this, that, and the other. But this can be found in the King James Version, 1611. Okie dokie. Now, before moving on, let's read this. If thou would get us the friend, prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him. I wonder why. Let's see. Now, Deuteronomy 8, verse 16. Who fed thee in the wilderness with manna. You know the Most High wants to be with us, innit? In terms of Emmanuel, God with us, with us. He wants to be with us. Made the sanctuary so that he could dwell with us. He's always about wanting to be with his people. He never wanted to be estranged from his wife, but his wife committed fornication and he just got sticky and he got a bit Rocky Balboa. So, okay, let's see what it says. Deuteronomy. Who fed thee in the wilderness with manna, which thy fathers knew not. Why did he do this? Why did he try to change their diet from flesh eating? Now, there's nothing wrong with flesh eating, but in this day that we live now, it's probably best to definitely know where your flesh is coming from. Because out of a contaminated carrot or a contaminated chicken breast, I would probably, in my opinion, go with a carrot over a chicken breast. That's not to say that the chicken breast is haram, it's forbidden, because it's not if it's done in the right way. And that's not to say the carrot and this, that, and the other, you know? But wisdom should be applied. But check this though. Deuteronomy 8:16. Who fed thee in the wilderness with manna, which thy fathers knew not. They didn't notice that. Why though? Why? What was the key point? Was it to change their diet? Was it to be draconian to them? Was it to be a bully? Was it to be a dictator, tyrant? Why? That he might humble thee, and that he might what? Prove thee to do thee good at the latter end. So this was just a trial run, really, a test run. Why, if these Israelites would just be content with their current situation that I'm going to walk them through into the promised land, if they're just content with faith upon me to deliver and do what I say, then we can take this to the next level. We can take this to the next stage. If you're faithful in this small thing, this very, very small thing, then I can trust you with an even larger thing, and then an even larger thing, and an even greater thing. But if you can't even just eat this manna and chill and be calm, then boy, sir, you're not ready to go into the next level. All right, Exodus 20:20. And Moses said unto the people, fear not, for Yahuwah is come to prove you, and that his fear may be before your faces. Why? Why? That ye sin not. That ye sin not. Okay. Now let's go back to the actual study at hand. So Abraham's brother and father were from where? Where were Abraham, Nahor, Haran? Where were these people from? Where were these people from? And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity in Ur of the Chaldees. So Yasharal originally, or Abraham, the father, he was from this place here. And if you look, it's not a million miles away from Elam, Shemite land. He's here though. This is where Abraham would have been. Here's your Persians. There's your Medes. Remember I was saying that the Susa, the Indians, were very dark looking people. There you see imagery of what they would have looked like in the past. Very regal, very elegant. Even got those kind of Aladdin shoes going on. You know them Aladdin shoes. But all right, let me stop that. So yeah, there we go. Persians would have been there. Medes would have been there. Babylonia's up here. Land of Ur's here. Elam's here. Now this is from Raskas. He said, around 2000 BC, southern Russians migrate in small units. Those who travel west populate Europe. Those who went east settled in Iran, known as Assyrians. 1500 BC, some crossed the Khyber Pass into India and created Hinduism, the first caste system, the origins of racism. Now the last part people contest, but I just wanted to highlight that because you're going to see how these Medes, who are Japhetic, yeah, mingled with these Persians. And that's where you get the Medes and the Persians, or the Persians and the Medes. These were Japhetic. And this is where you get the Indo-Europeans from, the Indo-Indians. You had Shemitic Indians and then Indo-Indians, but that's another story for another day. I just wanted to highlight that briefly in passing. All right, boom, back to Jubilees. So in the 13th Jubilee, the second week in the first year thereof, he took to himself a wife, and her name was Malka, the daughter of Madai, the son of Japheth. And in the 40th year, he begat a son and called his name Shelah. For he said, truly I have been sent. So this guy here, this Shelah, yeah, Arphaxad. Oh man, the arrow's playing up, you know. Alright, let me get this arrow back to the top. Alright, is that going to go back to the top? Alright, boom. Is it there? Okay. So Arphaxad took a Japhetic wife, had a child and called him Shelah. And then we know through here we get to Terah and then Terah to Abraham and this, that, the other. Alright, so I'll read it again. Some people might not know this. 30th year of the Jubilee in the second week of the first year of, he took to himself a wife and her name was Melika, the daughter of Madai. The daughter of Madai, the son of Japheth. So he's taught Melika, who was a daughter of Madai. Yeah? Interesting. And in the 4th year he was born, and Shelah grew up and took to himself a wife, and her name was Muak, the daughter of Kesed, his father's brother, in the 130th Jubilee in the 5th week in the first year. Yeah? And she bare him a son in the 5th year thereof, and he called his name Eber. Here's where we see Eber come on the scene. And he took unto himself a wife, and her name was Azurad, the daughter of Nebrod, in the 32nd Jubilee, in the 7th week, in the 3rd year thereof. And in the 6th year thereof, she bare him a son, and his name was Peleg. So then we get Peleg, this guy here. For in the days when he was born, the children of Noah began to divide themselves, the earth amongst themselves. Let me read that again. In the 6th year thereof, she bare him son, and called his name Peleg. Peleg. For in the days when he was born, the children of Noah began to divide the earth amongst themselves. For this reason, he called his name Peleg. Now, many people speculate, but now we know what actually took place. So people have said in the past that Peleg means Pangaea, and Pangaea was when the plates separated from each other, and Peleg means when the plates separated. This is not true. I even used to hold to that theory when I didn't have this account in Jubilees. So it said everything was a supercontinent, and at the time of Peleg, the plates started to drift away, and then that's how the world became divided. I'll find that image for you. Now, to be fair, you could argue the toss actually, because after the flood, plates could have been spread further. Volcanoes could have erupted and created a total new landmass over a period of time. Who knows? Only one can speculate and use one's imagination. But what they used to say was that Peleg was synonymous with Pangaea. Pangaea was saying that the earth was all of one supercontinent, Eurasia, North Africa, Africa, South America, North Africa, India, yada yada yada. One super duper supercontinent. Then at the time of Peleg, the plates drifted and everyone went to their places and this, that, and the other. That was the theory that went with the Peleg story. But in Jubilees, we know that Peleg isn't saying that. Peleg just means that Noah's sons one day said, you know what, Shem, I can't live with you because you leave the toilet seat up. And Ham said to Japheth, I can't live with you because you don't spread your bed properly. And then the other one said, I can't live with you because you leave crust in the butter tub. Yeah? So they had indifferences and they wanted to spread out and divide the earth amongst themselves because that's the only thing that they could do cordially. Okay? So that's kind of what happens. It wasn't the Pangaea thing, although you could probably make an argument after the flood that plates started to drift away, this, that, and the other. But we know that without any ambiguity, that these guys started to separate amongst themselves, you know? Okay, so, and they divided it secretly amongst themselves and told Noah. So the Ham, Shem, and Japheth, they took counsel amongst each other, and then they went and told Noah, their dad. And it came to pass in the beginning of the 33rd Jubilee that they divided the earth into 3 parts for Shem, Ham, Japheth, according to the inheritance of each. In the 1st year, in the 1st week, when one of us who had been sent was with them. And he called his sons, and he drew nigh to him. They and their children, and he, divided the earth into the lots, which his 3 sons were to take possession. And they reached forth their hands and took the writing out of the bosom of Noah, their father. And there came forth on the writing as Shem's lot, the middle of the earth, which he should take as an inheritance for himself and for his sons, and for the generations of eternity, from the middle of the mountain range of Rapha, from the mouth of the water, from the river Tina, and his portion goes toward the west through the midst of the river, and it extends till it reaches the water of the abysses, out of which the river goes forth and pours its waters into the sea, Miat. And this river flows into the great sea, and all that is south towards the north, and all that is towards the north is Japheth's, And all that is towards the south belongs to Shem. So Middle Earth, the furthest to the south of that middle region belongs to Shem. Anything above belongs to Japheth. Okay. And what did they do? How was the earth divided? The earth was divided by what? They cast lots. Who received their portion first? Shem. What was this portion called? Verse 12 again? Or no, was it verse 12? Yeah, verse 12. And there came forth on the right hand of Shem's lot, the middle of the earth. So think about it logically. There's three of them: Shem, Ham, and Japheth. They do lots. Put names in a whatever, in a I don't know, an instrument, whatever. Imagining this, and probably they got written down: Middle Earth, Top Earth, Bottom Earth, or South Earth, North Earth, Central Earth. I don't know. Shake a little whatever. He pulls out his name and he says, "Okay, you've got the Middle Earth." So that was Shem's lot, and then etc. etc. So we see the earth was divided by a lot. Who received their portion first? Shem. What was his portion called? The Middle Earth. This casting lots is not a new thing either. Joshua 18 verse 10. And Joshua cast lots for them in Shiloh before the Lord. So the Lord was a part of this casting a lot. Like the Lord was a part of the casting a lot of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, which we covered, I believe, in the previous study. And Joshua, or Yeshua, cast lots for them in Shiloh before the Lord. And Joshua divided the land unto the children of Yasharao according to their divisions. So even in the house of Yasharao, we had our land divided accordingly. So you had the land of Judah, Benjamin, Naphtali, Asher, Levi. All of them man there had their own allotted land. Simeon, Reuben, etc. It was casted by lots and divided. All right, come, let's continue. So, Jubilees 8:13. This is still talking about Shem. Look how long Shem's land is, like in comparison to the rest. How it's described, it's like Shem's land just goes on forever. And it extends till it reaches Carousel. This is in the bosom of the tongue which looks towards the south. And his portion extends along the great sea. And it extends in a straight line till it reaches the west of the tongue which looks towards the south. For this sea is named the tongue of the Egyptian sea. And it turns from here towards the south, towards the mouth of the great sea on the shore of its waters. And it extends to the west of Afra. And it extends till it reaches the waters of the river Gihon, and to the south of the waters of Gihon, to the banks of this river. And it extends towards the east, till it reaches the Garden of Eden, to the south thereof, to the south. And from the east of the whole land of Eden, and of the whole east it turns to the east and proceeds till it reaches the east of the mountain named Rapha. And it descends to the bank of the mouth of the river Tina. Boy, you have a big land, The portion came forth by lot for Shem and his sons, that they should possess it forever unto his generations forever. More. Boy, you have a big piece of land. Me want some of that land, All right, so he had a very, 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 very immense piece of land, commodious piece of land. Okay. Now, which three things were created facing each other? What was the Garden of Eden known as? What did Noah prophesy? Jubilees 8:18 to 20 to 21. And Noah rejoiced that his portion came forth. Salaki. And Noah rejoiced that this portion came forth for Shem and his sons. And he remembered all that he had spoken with his mouth in prophecy. For he had said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and may the Lord dwell in the dwelling of Shem. Interestingly, on a quick side note, most religions come from Shem. When you look at industry and ingenuity, Ham is on the ball for ingenuity and all those kind of things like industry and stuff like that. When you look at philosophy, theology, and war, Japheth is a juggernaut for that. But when you look at spirituality, Shem is a boss for that. Like even perverted spirituality comes from Shem. Hinduism, Sikhism, Islam, and well, I'm not about the people necessarily. It comes from a certain type of people. The Yehudi. A lot of faith comes from Shem. All right, that was a quick diversion. And he knew that the Garden of Eden. So this is what Shem knew. Shem knew this. He knew his history. And he knew that the Garden of Eden is the Holy of Holies. Wow. And the dwelling of the Lord. And Mount Sinai, the center of the desert. And Mount Zion, the center of the navel of the earth. Navel, like a belly button. Obviously, he's not saying the earth has a belly button. Just showing how it's center, These three were created as holy places facing each other. And interestingly, we know a lot of history is intimately connected to the Garden of Eden, Mount Sinai, and Mount Zion. That's interesting. And he blessed the God of gods who had put the word of the Lord into his mouth, and the Lord forever more. And he knew that a blessed portion and a blessing had come to Shem and his sons unto the generations forever. The whole land of Eden, and the whole land of the Red Sea, and the whole land of the East, and India, and on the Red Sea, and the mountains thereof, and all the land of Bashan, and all the lands of Lebanon, and all the islands of Kephatur, and the mountains of Senir, and Amana, and the mountains of Ashur in the north, and the land of Elam, and Ashur, and Babel, and Susan, and Maadai, and all the mountains of Ararat, and all the regions beyond the sea, which is beyond the mountains of Ashur, towards the north, a blessed and spacious land. And all that is in it is very good. Very good. So we see that Shem was the progenitor of the Negro, the Indian, all manner of people. Shem. Yeah? Not talking about Jacob. Talking about Shem. He had 5 sons, and his 5 sons had a large landmass to it, and etc. etc. Okay. Which son received his portion second? Which son received his portion second? And for Ham came forth the second portion beyond the Gihon towards the south to the right of the garden. And it extends towards the south and extends all to the mountains of fire. And it extends towards the west to the sea of Attel. And it extends towards the west till it reaches the sea of Mayuk, that sea, into which everything which is not destroyed descends. Now that sounds to me like the Dead Sea, into which everything which is not destroyed descends. Now, it could be off, I'm open to correction, but that just sounds like that. But who knows? Anyway, and it goes forth towards the north to the limits of Gadir, and it goes forth to the coast of the waters of the sea, to the waters of the great sea, till it draws near to the river of Gihon, and goes along the river Gihon till it reaches the right of the Garden of Eden. And this is the land which came forth for Ham as the portion which he was to occupy forever for himself and his sons unto their generations forever. Notice, Eden, the location of Eden is intimately connected to the borders of these lands. One land is like west of Eden. I'm just paraphrasing. One land's to the west of Eden, one land's to the north of Eden, one land's to the south of Eden. It's all intimately connected by the land of Eden or the Garden of Eden. Interesting. What was unique about Japheth's portion? What was unique about Japheth's portion? And for Japheth came forth the third portion, beyond the river Tina, to the north of the outflow of its waters, and it extends north, easterly, to the whole region of Gog, and to all the countries east thereof. And it extends northerly to the north, and it extends to the mountains of Quelt towards the north. No, it's north, and towards the sea of Meuk or Mak, and it goes forth to the east of Gedeh, as far as the region of the waters of the sea. Wow. And it extends until it approaches the west of Farah, and it returns towards Afarag, and it extends easterly to the waters of the sea of Miat, and it extends to the region of the river Tina in a northeasterly direction until it approaches the boundary of its waters towards the Mount Rapha, and it turns round towards the north. Interestingly, when you look at Shem and Ham, yeah, it's like Shem had loads of landmass. It's like Ham had a very concentrated landmass. Then when it gets to Japheth, it's like he's kind of had a spread out landmass too, which is just interesting. I was just thinking about that. This is the land which come forth for Japheth and his sons as the portion of his inheritance, which he should possess for himself and his sons for their generation. Now listen to this now. Forever they had 5 great islands and a great land in the north. This is the land which came forth for Japheth and his sons as the portion of his inheritance, which he should possess for himself and his sons for their generations, forever. 5 great islands and a great island in the north. Now, I posted this ages ago, a couple months back, and somebody made a comment, and I thought, okay, interesting. Not saying I validate his comment, but definitely interesting. Now the brother said, brother Paliao Yah Bayan Yisrael, he said, name the 5 great islands and the great land to the north. And he said again, Europe has 5 countries that consist solely of islands. They are Cyprus, Iceland, Malta, Republic of Ireland, and the United Kingdom. Now, it could be right, it could be wrong, but nevertheless, Jubilees gives the account that there was 5 great islands and a great land in the north. When I think of a great land in the north, in my head, I just think of like Russia for some reason, because it's so vast, it's so large. It's probably not as populated or it's not inhabitable today as it was back then, but who knows? But when you think of landmass, Russia and those kind of places just seem extremely large, you know? But anyway, that was the description of Japheth. Now, after this point, I'm going to take a second break so that everybody can have a refreshment and catch up and do what they need to do. And I'll come back in about 4 minutes. All right. Jubilees 8 verse 30, which is very interesting. It says, in regards to the climate of each son's habitation. The climate of each son's habitation. Yeah? It says, still regarding Japheth, still the same verse. So, 29. This is the land which come forth for Japheth and his sons as the portion of his inheritance, which he should possess for himself and his sons for their generations forever. Then he's going to tell you where it was. 5 great islands and a great land in the north. Now, continuing on. But it is cold. So it's saying this great land in the north is cold. Or it could be saying the lands in general are cold. But I think this is referencing to this great landmass in the north as being cold. And the only place I can think of really, contextually, geographically, would be Russia. But I don't know. So it was cold. All right. Now, how does he describe the climate of the sons of Ham? It says, and the land of Ham is hot. And do you know that Ham actually means hot? The land of Ham is hot. Hot Ham. Okay. And the land of Shem is neither hot nor cold, but is blended of cold and heat. Now, there was a guy by the name of Jean-Baptiste Leonard Durand, and listen to what he said. Yeah, this, you could call him an anthropological scholar or somebody who just studies people and environments and this, that, the other. But I'm not saying he was that. He says 1802, Jean-Baptiste Leonard, A Voyage to Senegal. So this was his memoir when he went to Senegal. Now listen to what it says. Okay, yeah, I'll read it. The blacks are a kind of men destined by nature to inhabit Africa and America. She has created for them burning regions. Let us therefore take note not to oppose her views, talking about nature, or overthrow barriers which she has established. But let us preserve their races in their natural purity and not permit the Negro to inhabit Europe. 1802, Jean-Baptiste Leonard Durand, A Voyage to Senegal, The Atlas of the Region, page 89. Boy. So it go. That's why, yo, man, I love going away to hot countries, you know. I love it, you know. Because when I'm in this cold climate, you know, I'm just like, my body don't even adapt to the cold. Like, you just, you know, a true story. My daughter caught like rickets, you know, lack of vitamin D deficiency or whatever. Took her away twice in that year just to get her some sun. Healed. Rickets, bow leg gone, leg straight, no bow, no leg, no deficiency. My daughter's just walking, you know, before she was walking like Robocop, you know, like 2 paces every 5 seconds or whatever. Took her, got the sun, got kissed by the sun, the rays, and just healed her. Her legs good to go. Many of us are suffering in our particular environment, especially in Europe and places like that, because the environment is not conducive to our functionality. Now, Europeans, they require less melanin, so they're able to function in colder environments. I'm not just saying this in general, as the people today. They're able to operate in a colder environment because they don't require melanin, as much melanin, sorry, to, you know, be conducive. But us who are melanated require melanin, and if we don't, we have melanin withdrawal symptoms. I'm just saying this in my level of knowledge. My wife will be breaking it down with periodic tables and going in with all this, that, and the other. But I'm a basic man, talking in a basic language. You know, many of us are suffering from health conditions because we lack vitamin D, we lack this, we lack the natural environment. You know, so we're like this guy said here. Can you imagine this? 1802, Jean-Baptiste is saying this, you know. He's saying this, you know. She has created for them the burning regions. He's talking about Mother Nature. You know, they deify nature. Now, when I say nature, I just say nature is being created by the Most High. I don't deify nature, but these guys would deify nature. But he says, she has created for them the burning regions. Let us therefore take note not to oppose her views or overthrow barriers. Which barriers is he talking about? This guy's proper deep and profound. He could be a prophet. I'm ramping. Which she has established. Let us preserve their races in their natural purity and not permit the Negro to inhabit Europe. And you know what? That is the same flip reversey. Many Europeans, if it weren't for sunscreen, if it weren't for AC, if it wasn't for sun lotion, sun cream, tan cream, all these different creams to give them melanin, which then can combat the sun, if it wasn't for those inventions, many of them wouldn't be able to live in hot regions. You know, like many people today in Israel are having issues with their skin because the environment's not conducive for them being there. But that's another story for another day. All right, taking a break. I'll leave that on there for you to ponder, and I'll be back in about 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Looked at Jubilees 8 verse 30. It says, but it is cold, and a landmass of Ham is hot. And a land mass of Shem is neither hot nor cold, but is blended cold and heat. We looked at Jean-Baptiste Leonard Durand, and he made a statement about nature and how nature has pre-subscribed the Negro to a hot climate, and likewise it's pre-subscribed Europeans to a cold environment. So when we look at Japheth now, Japheth's climate is what is supposed to be a cold climate. Yeah, must move myself from that. It's supposed to be a cold climate. the land of Ham. Let me get my arrow so you can see. Create an arrow there. All right, so you're saying cold. That's supposed to be Japheth. This guy here. It's saying the land of Ham is supposed to be hot. The land of Shem is supposed to be cold and hot. It's supposed to be blended of Ham and blended of Japheth. That's why Shem's in the middle. Yeah, it's supposed to be a bit of both in terms of climate. And then this guy made a profound statement regarding this environmental suitability of nations and people. Okay. So, moving on. And Ham divided among his sons, and the first portion came forth for Cush. So, we had Ham, Shem, and Japheth going to Noah, saying, Dad, we want to divide the land 3 ways. They cast lots, and Shem was the first to be called. Shem got land, Ham got land, Japheth got land. We've just dealt with Ham, Shem, and Japheth and their land, and the land that they received via inheritance and birthright. Now, we're looking at the sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, dividing the land between their sons. Yeah? So we've dealt with Noah and his sons. Now we're dealing with Ham, Japheth, and their sons. Okay? So, if I could just shrink that there, it's just coming in the thing. Alright, boom. So, Jubilees 9 verse 1. It says, and Ham divided amongst his sons, the first portion came forth for Cush towards the east, and to the west of him Mizraim. So Cush and Mizraim, they were like neighbors. The Ethiopians and Mizraim, the Egyptians, were like next door, more or less. And to the west of him Put, and to the west of him, and to the west thereof, on the sea for Canaan. And to the west thereof, on the sea for Canaan. So let me get my arrow again, so we can see what we're dealing with here. So, Cush. So Cush, the Ethiopians, they had their portion first. Then after them, Mizraim, the Egyptians, they had their second. Then you have Put, the Libyans, or that's got Libyans there, but it is what it is. And obviously, even when we've got these names and labels today, it's not reflective of the people who are there today. So you might see Ethiopians and just register this as being a melanated class. Then when you get to Egypt, you're thinking, oh, were they kind of European-looking people? That's further from the truth. Then when you get to Put and you're thinking of Libyans, you're thinking, oh, are they those like Turkish kind of people? No, and etc. etc. So that's just to give you a bit of context behind how it was divided and who got what and when and where and how. So that's Ham dividing his land between his posterity, Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. All right, now this is Shem, and this is Shem now dividing his land to his sons. And Shem also divided amongst his sons, and the first portion came forth for Ham and his sons to the east of the river Tigris. All right, so again, Shem was the first one to get his land when they divided it. The second time, Ham and his sons were the first to get their portion when they divided it amongst their sons. So when Noah and his sons divided it, Shem was first. Then when Shem and his brothers divided it, Ham's son was first. Okay. And Shem also divided amongst his sons, and the first portion came forth for Ham and his sons, and to the east of the river Tigris, till it approaches the east, the whole land of India, and on the Red Sea, on its coast, and the waters of Dedan, and all the mountains of Membri and Elah, and all the land of Susan, and all that is on the side of Pharonak, to the Red Sea, and the river Tina. So this is Shem's land. And for Asher, all right, let me read that again actually. Oh yeah. And for Asher came forth the second portion, all the land of Asher, and Nineveh, and Shinar, and to the borders of India, and it descends or ascends and skirts the river. And for Arphaxad, now this is Arphaxad is Abraham's people, I believe. Where are we now? And for Arphaxad came forth the third portion, or the land of the region of the Chaldees, to the east of the Euphrates, bordering on the Red Sea, and all the waters of the desert close to the tongue of the sea, which looks towards Egypt, and all the land of Lebanon, Zanir, and Ammon, or Ammana, to the border of Euphrates. Salaki for pronounce anything incorrectly, this, that, and the other. And for Aram, there came forth the fourth portion of the land of Mesopotamia, between Tigris and the Euphrates, to the north of the Chaldees, to the border of the mountain of Asher, and the land of Ararat. These names are different to pronounce, you know. But okay, I'm saying all that to say this, we're going to break some of this down. So this was Shem, and this is Shem giving out his land to his posterity, to Elam, Asher, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram. Yeah? Not to be confused with Abraham or Abraham. It's a different person, different time period altogether. So this is Aram, not Abraham. This is Lud, this is Arphaxad, this is Asher, and Elam, the 5 sons of Shem. And they're having their land divided to them. Now, my wife's grandma, yeah, for as long as I can remember, yeah, she's always said to me, she always says funny things as well, like, when she's talking about the police, she calls them massa. She's like, yeah, the massa. Or just in general, like, she got funny proverbials. She'll go, massa, massa, massa. And massa doesn't mean master. Massa apparently in the Hebrew language means oppressor. That's interesting. But she also makes the assertion and the claim that she's Assyrian. Yeah, now she's Negroid, but she says, I'm an Assyrian. And that's always just been like, because I had my Western mind at the time, and my Western worldview at looking and interpreting history, I used to kind of laugh and scoff, because I'm like, why is your mom saying that she's Assyrian? Black people ain't Assyrian. Assyrians are those fair-skinned looking Paris Hilton mixed with a bit of ludicrous looking people. I'm ramping. But I couldn't comprehend what she was saying. That was like 3-4 years ago when she used to say that all the time. Obviously, I've looked at a lot more things since then, and it makes more sense now. Now, this is from, I should have put the quote in. I'll try and find the reference after. But this is a Pan-Ivian woman, a Negroid of southern India. Negroid of southern India. Now it says, the African Negro was again differentiated probably in East Africa into 3 main varieties: the Prognathos, the Strandlooper, type of whom vestiges live in, and okay, that's not what I wanted to get to. Okay, this part here says the Jews are composed of 3 or 4 separate racial elements. The Asiatic Negroid strain shows itself occasionally in the curly hair, long eye, and proportion of the skull. Check this. The Jewish hybrids with the Negro in Jamaica and Guyana produce most strikingly the Assyrian type. And this is supposed to be synonymous of the Assyrian look, the Panvian woman. And my wife's grandma looks more or less like this. And when she was telling me she was Assyrian, I'm like, nah, you ain't no Assyrian. Assyrians all look like you. They got straight hair, long pointy noses, this, that, and the other. So that was very interesting to find out. Now, some of you might not have seen the study that we did, the exhaustive study on the Portugal's banishment of the Jews, not the Jewish people, but the actual Jews according to the Bible. And we saw how the Catholic Church was in league with the Spanish and Portuguese monarchy, and they gave a decree and they expelled and banished the Jews from their lands. And they also had, along the west coast of Africa, they had subjects of the Portuguese monarchy, and they sold them into slavery too. So it wasn't just the Jews in the landmass of Portugal, but Portugal also, during its ascendancy, encapsulated regions of West Africa. So it had certain parts of West Africa under submission to their throne, including Mozambique and other areas along that way. But if you want to see more on that, there's a study on that going into it exhaustively. Now here is just another source. Jamaica in the 1850s and Nature Knows No Colour line. It says many of the Jews which were banished from Portugal by King John II settled in the West Indies. John Bigelow, who visited Jamaica in 1850, the plantations, saw the descendants of these Jews and says they were Negroid. The Eastern Jews who settled in Austria, Poland, and Russia were Negroid too. So even in Poland, Russia, all over the gaff, there was Negroids. I mean, if Jonah, back in the day, was trying to get to Portugal, Tarshish, it stands to reason that they were quite familiar with Europe or the landmass of Japheth. But that's another story for another day. Let's look at Japheth now. And Japheth also divided the land of his inheritance among his sons, and the first portion came forth to Gomer. And Gomer is kind of situated near Russia, interestingly, to the east, and from the north side to the river Tena, and in the north there came forth Magog, which is kind of like a Chinese, I don't even know, Chinese kind of thing. That's why when people try to say that the Moabites are Chinese, I strongly disagree with that interpretation, Chinese and that persuasion are Japhetic people, But that's another story, again, for another day. And in the north there came forth Magog, or the inner portions of the north, until it reaches the Sea of Miat. And interestingly as well, Japheth looks after Japheth. Because when you look at colonialism and you look at racism, there's a pyramid when it comes to racism. There's a hierarchy of intelligence. You have white, yellow, brown, and black. So Japheth has set up a system where he's at the top, his cousin, the yellow man's second, and then it just goes down in shade complexion, Anyway, and for Madai came forth as his portion that he should possess from the west of his two brothers to the islands and to the coast of the islands. And for Javon came forth the fourth portion, every island and the islands which are towards the border of Lud. And for Tubal there came forth the fifth portion in the midst of the tongue, which approaches towards the border of the portion of Lud, to the second tongue, to the region beyond the second tongue, unto the third tongue. Now, biblically, many of us people have been so miseducated, to the point where people discredit the Bible as fallacy and hogwash because of the miseducation and the misapplication of so-called scholars and how they interpret the Bible and people within the Bible narrative. Now, when you hear the word Gentile, we've been called Gentiles for as long as I can remember. The Negro is a Gentile. Hey, even people say Ham's a Gentile. But I'm sorry, when you look at the Bible, the first mention of Gentile being associated with any nation, full stop, period, from its inception, was the Japhetic nation. So let me get my arrow. It's going to be a hard pill to swallow for people who've been taught incorrectly for a long period of time. So there's Doug Batchelor, there's the Pope, there's some other guy, there's Nicole Kidman, there's some other woman, there's Greta Thunberg, there's Charles Darwin, there's what's his name? Not Attila the Hun. Yeah, Attila the Hun. There's Henry VIII. There's a Spartan. There's some Spanish guy. There's Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is where these guys come from. This is their landmass. Sorry, this is their landmass. Yeah? Now, the nations descend from Noah. According to the Bible, Genesis, it says, these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were the sons born after the flood. Yeah, sons were born after the flood. Now listen, it describes the son of Japheth very intricately now. It tells you the sons of Japheth: Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javon, around here somewhere. Oh, Javon, Greeks, Tubal, Meshach, and where's Tiraz? Tiraz is around there somewhere, in this landmass somewhere. But you know, that's them. Now, what does it say? Forget the grandsons, forget the other grandsons or the great grandsons or whatever. It says, by these, Ios, by these, talking about these, the Japheth, the sons of Japheth, by these, the sons of Japheth, were the Ios of the Gentiles, the Ios of the what? The Gentiles, the Ios of the what? The Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after his families, in their nations. The Bible doesn't even call Ham, quote unquote, a Gentile nation. And it definitely doesn't call Shem a Gentile nation. The only nation that is known as a Gentile is Japheth. Now, the twist is, today, when you talk about who is a Gentile, yeah, it's flip reverse. So people assume that people who look like this phenotype could possibly be Jews, like Doug Batchelor and the rest of them. But it's further from the truth, you know. It's a Gentile nation. Okay, back to Jubilees. And in the third week of this Jubilee, the unclean demons began to lead astray the children of the sons of Noah, and to make them err, and to destroy them. And the sons of Noah came to Noah their father, and told him concerning the demons which were leading astray, and blinding and slaying their sons. And he prayed before the Lord his Yah, and said, Yahuwah of the spirits of all flesh, whom has shown mercy unto me, and has saved me, and my sons from the waters of the flood, and has not caused me to perish as thou didst the sons of perdition. For thy grace has been great towards me, and great has been thy mercy to my soul. Let thy grace be lifted up upon my sons, and let not the wicked spirits rule over them, lest they should destroy them from the earth. Now, we know even in Yeshua's day, what was Yeshua doing? He was casting out spirits. He was casting out spirits that were going into people and making them jump into fire. He cast out a demon that was in the legion, and he said there are many of us. Now, nowadays, people will interpret what Yeshua was doing and saying that the people had Tourette's, the people had aspersions, the people had epilepsy, the people had autism. So we've got all of these scientific names to debunk what Yeshua was doing and to degrade his ministry. But like I said, in the book of Jubilees, we see these things were happening in abundance. We get to the time of Yeshua, a considerable time later, and we see these things are happening in abundance. Yeah, and then it's like, for some reason, most of our modern Bibles don't even mention or make reference to what was going on in the days of Noah, as if it was on purpose. Interesting. Anyway, but do thou bless me and my sons, that we may increase and multiply and replenish the earth. And thou knowest how thy watchers, the father of these spirits, acted in my day. And as for these spirits which are living, imprison them, and hold them fast in the place of condemnation, and let them not bring destruction on the sons of thy servant, my God, for these are malign and created in order to destroy. So this creation that was created by these watchers, they were just created just to wreak havoc and destroy. You know, it's just in their DNA to wreak havoc and destroy, which is interesting. And let them not rule over the spirits of the living, for thou alone canst exercise dominion over them, and let them not have the power over the sons of righteous from henceforth forevermore. And the Lord our God bade us to bind all. Now, the reason I got that image in there is just because somebody knows something, you know. Somebody knows something. And Hollywood, the spellcasters, the sorcerers, the wizards, and the witches, I found it very interesting with my highly concentrated Christianity mentality going back 10 years ago when I, inherited the faith from a parent, but it wasn't really my own. When I was watching The Passion of the Christ, as many of us has watched, I was always taken back here by why Satan was very ghostly and gauntly in appearance, and he was always holding a baby, just always in a scene holding a baby. I'm thinking, why is, like, you get me? Like, why is this Satan dude following my savior, white Jesus, and holding a baby and mocking? I couldn't understand what was going on. So it's like people are privy to this information and they know that these things take place. Now, a lot of people nowadays, this is the way Satan's trying to frame his kingdom, is just by using this terminology, spiritual. So people be like, yo, I don't really read the Bible, fam. I'm just spiritual. You get me? I'm just like wind. I just flow, bro. I'm like the spirit. I'm like, okay. But demons are spiritual too. So when people are saying they're spiritual, they need to be a bit more specific, Now the Spirit speaketh expressly in the latter days, some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits. Now why were they seducing now, do you reckon? There was literally seducing people back in the day, antediluvian time, hence why they got wiped out. And they were also sharing hidden occult knowledge, i.e. doctrines of devils. And we still see this today, current time, real time, spellcasters in Hollywood, J.K. Rowling, Aleister Crowley, Anton DeVay, all these people that have gone on to influence the minds of a certain type of people today. Interesting. All right. Now, disloyal angels sinned how? Enoch, you being spiritual, holy, and possessing a life which is eternal, have polluted yourselves with women, have begotten in carnal blood, have lusted in the blood of men, and have done as those who are flesh and blood do. So they're saying, Unala, we're lusting after these women and did some hanky-panky and crossed the line that you shouldn't have crossed. What did the Most High do? Verse 35, the Most High permitted them to see the error of their ways. Therefore I have given to them wives, that they might cohabit with them, that the sons might be born of them, and that this might be transacted upon the earth. So it's okay, you want to transgress, keep transgressing, do your thing. But it's going to get to a time where I'm just going to wipe out the earth because of your transgression. These angels, were they mortal or immortal? Verse 6, but you from the beginning were made spiritual, possessing a life which is eternal, and not subject to death forever. Okay. Now, according to Yeshua, what does he say about angels? Because this is where the confusion comes from, because people will say, but Yeshua said, the angels don't marry. So Enoch is a big hogwash because it doesn't even line up with scripture. It's because people are using it with a preconceived notion anyway. So let's read. And we looked at this extensively on the last study as well. It says, loyal angels of Yah do not. And it's blank. Let's fill in the blank. For when they shall rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels which are in heaven. So there's a class of angels which are in heaven. And we know that Lucifer and his angels were cast down to the earth. Okay. So that's made a distinction between loyal angels and disloyal angels. Now let's see again, Luke 20:36. Loyal angels of Yah do not what? Neither can they die anymore, for they are equal unto the angels, and are children of Yah, being the children of the resurrection. So we know that angels were not supposed to die either. And angels were not supposed to marry. But Enoch's saying that angels married, and that angels had intercourse with humanity and created a hybrid race. Interesting. Now, fallen angels, what is their final destination? Because we just read angels can't die, but we're going to read in Matthew 25:41 that something is prepared for some angels. Okay. Matthew 25:41. Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, you cursed, into everlasting fire. Now, who was the fire prepared for? It was prepared for the devil and his angels. So the devil and his angels committed fornication with these women, but the loyal angels of the Most High who dwell in heaven, they don't do those things, and they never did those things because they were loyal. And this is one of the major taboos in Christendom that doesn't really get spoke upon, because no one really knows how to correctly expound it in Christendom. Outside of Christendom, everyone expounds it left, right, and center. But when you're in a certain religious, institutional way of thinking, or you have your popes that you're not allowed to speak against because it'll be sacrilege, then you get stuck in a box and you get stuck in a bigoted mindset. All right, let's continue. Almost coming to the end as well. Almost coming to the end. Okay. What does Mastema ask for? Now, for some of you, this is your first introduction to Mastema. You've never heard of Mastema before. So we will read it, then you should be able to see who Mastema is. Lord Creator, let some of them remain before me, and let them hearken to my voice, and do all that I shall say unto them. For if some of them are not left to me, I shall not be able to execute the power of my will on the sons of men. And these are for corruption, and leading astray before my judgment. For great is the wickedness of the sons of men. So this angelic host, this fallen angelic host, is asking and petitioning the Most High that he shouldn't be wiped out, and he should at least be able to exercise his will of rebellion on the sons of man. The same way man has been able to exercise their rebellion by sinning against the Most High. And he said, let the 10th part of them remain before him, and let 9 parts descend into the place of condemnation. And one of us he commanded that we would teach Noah all their medicines, for he knew that they would not walk up in righteousness, nor strive in righteousness. And we did according to all his words. And the millennium evil ones, we bound in the place of condemnation, and a 10th part of them we left, that they might be subject before Satan on the earth. So this angel, now we know it's Satan. He said, boy, you can't just get rid of all of my people, because what about my free will? What about my right to choose rebellion against you? Like, how come everyone has free will, but I can't have free will? Just saying, I need to at least have some angels to do my will, the same way you have angels doing your will. Now, he says, now in the midst of that, in the midst of bounding up them, one of Yah's angels taught them how to use herbs against the sorcery or the drugs, the potions of the other side. So we're looking at this vaccine epidemic now, and people are being hoodwinked by sorcery. We looked at sorcery previously. The Most High made an angel, one of his people, teach Noah how to use herbs and natural healing against their pharmaceutical industry that they were trying to push. Now, obviously, we're in the pharmaceutical industry. I'm just trying to make it contemporary so that you guys can understand. Anyway, and one of us he commanded that we should teach Noah all the medicines, for he knew that they would not walk in uprightness nor strive in righteousness. And we did according to all his words. So that's what they did. And then it said, so that's the one class of angels did that, taught Noah that. And then all the millennium evil ones we bound in the place of condemnation. A 10th part of them we left, that they might be subject before Satan on the earth. So they taught Noah, and then they dealt with a percentage of the evil ones. Now what did they do? And we explained to Noah all the medicines of their diseases, together with their seductions, how he might heal them with herbs of the earth. So they were coming with coronavirus back then. They were coming with Ebola back then, you know. They were coming with all these sorceries back then to put men in a vulnerable state, to kill people, murder people. They were coming with their Planned Parenthood back then and all these things back then, their ways of dealing with mankind and causing anarchy. But the Most High sent an angel to teach Noah how to make natural herbs. Interesting. Now, what did Noah do with this info? What did Noah do with this info? And Noah wrote down all the things in a book as instructed him concerning every kind of medicine. Thus the evil spirits were precluded from hurting the sons of Noah. So there we go. Very interesting. Now, which son did Noah give this book to? Which son did Noah give the book to? And he gave all that he had written to Shem, his eldest son, for he loved him exceedingly above all his sons. And Noah slept with his father and was buried on Mount Lubur in the land of Ararat. 950 years he completed his life, 19 jubilees in 2 weeks and 5 years. And in his life on the earth he excelled the children of men, save Enoch, because of the righteousness wherein he was perfect. For Enoch's office was ordained for a testimony to the generations of the world, so that he should recount all the deeds of the generation unto the generation, till the judgment of the day. So he passed down this book unto his son, Shem. All right, speeding through. Got about 3 slides left and we're done. I'll just read this one out. And in the 33rd Jubilee, in the first year, in the second week, Peleg took to himself a wife whose name was Lamona, the daughter of Shinar, and she bare him a son in the 4th year of this week, and he called his name Ru, for he said, behold, the children of men have become evil through the wicked purpose of building for themselves a city and a tower in the land of Shinar. For they departed from the land of Ararat eastward to Shinar. For in these days they built the city and tower, saying, go, let us ascend thereby into heaven. And they began to build, and in the 4th week they made brick with fire, and bricks served them for stone, and the clay with which they cemented them together, with asphalt, which comes out of the sea and out of the fountains of the water in the land of Shinar. And they built it 43 years were they building it. Its breadth was 203 bricks, and the height of a brick was the third of one. Its height amounted to 5,433 cubits and 2 palms, and the extent of one wall was 13 stades, and of the other 30 stades. Don't ask me what that is, I don't know. And the Lord God said unto us, behold, they are one people, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be withholden from them. Go to, let us go down, confound their language, that they may understand one another's speech, and they may be dispersed into the cities and nations, and one purpose will no longer abide with them to the day of judgment. And we see now that the reason for the variation in language was to stop people coming with one purpose, in apostasy. And this new world order is trying to bridge the gap. It's trying to get everyone to sing from the same sheet. It's trying to bridge the gap in a religious world, coexist. It's trying to bridge the gap in the technological world, vaccinations. It's trying to bridge the gap in the moral world, in the world of morality, love wins. It's trying to bridge the gap. The world's coming together in unity, in singularity, in apostasy against the Most High. So we see everyone's coming together, not coming together to serve the Most High, but coming together to go at variance with the Most High. And if you're not a part of this crowd, you can be put in jail, you can have your children taken off you, you can have all manner of isms and schisms against you if you're counter-cultural. So for example, what do I mean by that? In Canada, I believe there's a law that if you disagree with your child's sexuality, you just disagree, You're just like, nah, disagree. Or you are outspoken against it. You can be fined, or you can even be a herd incarcerated, but take that with a pinch of salt. But I know there's legislation in place where they can remove the child from your environment if you're not willing to nurture their development in their chosen sexual preference. So that's interesting. Anyway, and the Lord descended, and we descended with him to see the city and the tower which the children of men had built. And he confounded their language, and they no longer understood one another's speech, and they ceased then to build the city and the tower. For this reason, the whole land of Shinar is called Babel, because the Lord did there confound all the language of the children of men, and from hence they were dispersed into the cities, each according to his language and his nation. Now, again, EU. This is the EU Parliament of Strasbourg. Yeah. So these Japhetic nations, European Union of Japheth, you can call it Japhetic Union, Parliament, whatever. They've modelled their building off the Tower of Babel. The architect who made the blueprint made it based off the Tower of Babel. And we see all these flags of nations showing conformity and solidarity to the EU Parliament of Strasbourg. Okay. Now it's getting a bit interesting. And the Lord sent a mighty wind against the tower and overthrew it upon the earth. And behold, it was between Asshur and Babylon in the land of Shinar, and they called its name Overthrow. In the 4th week, in the 1st year, in the beginning thereof, in the 4th and 30th Jubilee, were they dispersed from the land of Shinar. In the 4th week, the 1st year, in the beginning thereof, in the 4th and 30th Jubilee, they were dispersed from the land of Shinar. Everyone spread out, dispersed. And Ham and his sons went into the land which he was to occupy, which he acquired as his portion in the land of the south. So look at it like this. At this part of the apostasy, Ham, Shem, Japheth were all dwelling in the land of Shinar. Yeah, they all come to agreement and of one accord, and they were all dwelling in the land of Shinar. If we're going by this record, because why would it say how many sons went to their land if they weren't in their land already? Obviously, they all came to the epicenter of apostasy. The whole nation came. Ham, Shem, and Japheth came to Shinar in apostasy against the Most High. Then they got dispersed when they had their different languages given to them. Check this. How many sons went into the land which he was to occupy, which he acquired as his portion in the land of the south? And Canaan saw the land of Lebanon to the river of Egypt, that it was very good. And he went not into the land of his inheritance to the west, that is to the sea. And he dwelt in the land of Lebanon, eastward and westward, from the border of Jordan, and from the border of the sea. So Canaan had a thing called Evaritus. I called it Evaritus. I'm going to do like the Caucasians and just name stuff and make a meaning from it. He had Evaritus or Evitis. Now, listen to what it says. Canaan saw the land of Lebanon to the river of Egypt, that it was very good. Let's see what Eve said, the mother of mankind, in the garden. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, that's why I call it Evitis. Now, Canaan saw the land of Lebanon to the river of Egypt, that it was very good. And he went not into the land of his inheritance, to the west, that is to the sea, and he dwelt in the land of Lebanon, eastward and westward, from the border of Jordan and from the border of the sea. Now, on this point, just quickly, so when it comes to, I don't know if I included the scriptures, I may have. Oh yeah, I've included it. Okay, I don't need to talk on this one. Okay, what did Canaan's father and brother say? What did Canaan's father and brothers say? And Ham, his father, and Cush, and Mizraim, his brother, said unto him, Thou hast settled in a land which is not thine, and which did not fall to us by lot. Do not do so, for if thou dost do so, thou and thy sons will fall in the land, and be accursed through sedition. For by sedition ye have settled, and by sedition will thy children fall, and thou shalt be rooted out forever. So what did Canaan's father and brothers say? Did they encourage him? Were they anti-Shemites? Were they anti-Shemites? No. Ironically, Ham and Cush, the Ethiopian, and Mizraim, the Egyptians, they actually were saying, yo, Canaan, go back to your land, bro. Like, bro, everyone's got their portion, you know. Like, seriously, like, what, bro, come on, fam. Like, yo. So they were trying to petition to his better nature for him to stop the evil that he was trying to do. And they said, Dwell not in the dwelling of Shem, for to Shem and his sons did it come by their lot. So we can happily say that Ham was not an anti-Shemite, or Shem, what do they call it? Anti-Shemitic. It wasn't anti-Shemitic. Canaan, you could say, was anti-Shemitic. Yeah? But Ham were anti, you know. Anyway, boom. He says, Dwell not in the dwelling of Shem, your uncle, for to Shem, your uncle, and your cousins, his sons, did it come by their lot. Cursed art thou, and cursed thou shalt be beyond all the sons of Noah. Wow. By the curse by which we bound ourselves by our oath in the presence of the holy judge and in the presence of Noah our father. So this has been the curse. When you read normal King James non-1611 Bible, they say, okay, it leaves out a lot of the so-called history, and people just superimpose the curse of Canaan onto the whole the whole black race, quote unquote. And we know that the black race isn't just one race. Not all skin folk are kinfolk. We all have different progenitors. Obviously, we all come from Adam and Eve, but then when it got to Noah and his 3 sons, that's when nations came into the scene. And we had the nations of the Gentiles, the nations of the Hamitic, and the nations of the Shemitic. And it wasn't just Ham and one particular landmass. His sons had variations in the landmass, etc., etc. You know? So anyway, did Canaan listen to Ham, his dad, to the Egyptians, to the Ethiopians? And interestingly, does it say Put? It doesn't even say Put said anything. So I guess Put didn't say nothing. Or Put wasn't there at the meeting. But we know Cush and Mizraim definitely said something. And the dad definitely said something too. Now did Canaan listen? But he did not hearken unto them, and he dwelt in the land of Lebanon, from Hamath to entering of Egypt, and to entering of Egypt, he and his sons unto this day. But he did not hearken unto them, and dwelt in the land of Lebanon, from Hamath to the entering of Egypt, he and his sons, plural, unto this day. And for this reason, that land is named Canaan. Now, when we read the Bible, we just see Moses, and they went for the this, that, and the other. Went for the desert. Moses said, "I'm going to bring you to a land of milk and honey, and I want you to just commit mass genocide on the Canaanites and just wipe them all out. Don't worry, we're just going to expel them from their own land, which they occupy. Just obliterate them and take their land of milk and honey." That's what it says. That's how we read it, because there's no pretext really to add in the fillers of what took place. Now we've added in the fillers, we're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because a lot of people have tried to demonize the Most High in the Old Testament as tyrannical, just cutthroat. But there was a reason behind the mandate. Because, let's read again. Cursed art thou, verse 32, and cursed shall be beyond all the sons of Noah, by what? The curse by which we bound ourselves by our oath in the presence of the holy judge, the Most High Yahuwah, and in the presence of Noah, our father. So they had 2 and 3 witnesses. they had the Most High, they had Noah, and they had themselves 3 witnesses. And he went and broke it. Now, let's see what Deuteronomy and Proverbs have to say. Deuteronomy 27 verse 17. Cursed be he that removeth, let's read again. Cursed be he that removeth his neighbour's landmark. Wow. And all the people shall say, Amen. Remove not the ancient landmark which thy fathers, your mother, which thy fathers, your cousin, which thy fathers have set. So who was setting these landmarks? Was it not Shem? Was it not didn't they set it in the presence of the holy judge, the father, and in the presence of their father Noah? So who was reaping them a curse? Canaan. But how are you going to throw every single so-called black person into a black box and say you're just cursed of Canaan? When we've just seen that it's only that Cush are the Ethiopians, Mizraim is the Egyptians, Put Libyans, Canaan, Palestine's Canaanites, all from Ham, all dark skin, according to the Bible. Not pale, not light, not semi-light, dark skin brothers. Yeah? Okay. But everyone miraculously in Christianity gets thrown into the black box of Canaan. Interesting. Now, we're going to understand why the Most High dealt with the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Jebusites, Perizzites, and all these other ites. Why he dealt with them meticulously and wanted them gone. Because they had forsaken and broken a what? A covenant. Exodus 13 verse 5. And you know what? It's not even like they just broke it and was like, okay, we did bad. Let's just leave and give it back to our uncle and our cousins. They just stayed there. They took over South Africa and making it modern. They took over South Africa. And then when the South Africans wanted their land back, they said, no, this is our land. We stole it fairly. But by thievery, by sedition, we stole this. And by sedition, we should keep this. Notice it says, and Ham says, and Ham his father, and Cush and Mizraim, his brothers said, thou hast settled in a land which is not thine, and which did not fall to us by lot. And it says, do not do so, for if thou do so, thy son, accursed. Why? It says, for by sedition ye have settled, and by sedition will thy children fall, and thou shalt be rooted out forever. So they took it via sedition. They took it by brute force. And then when the people wanted the land back, they didn't want to give it them back. It's not like when they saw the children of Yasharal come in, they said, hey, yeah, our dad stole the land, you can have some of this land back. They were still taking it ignorantly and arrogantly. So the Most High was just saying, boom, in Exodus 13 verse 5, and it shall be when the Lord shall bring thee into the land of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, the Canaanite son, and the Amorites, the Canaanite son, and the Hivites, the Canaanite son, and the Jebusites, fill in the blank, which he sware unto thy fathers. What fathers did he swear unto? Shem, Japheth, and Ham, or fathers is in Shem in this particular context, to give thee a land flowing with milk and honey, but thou shalt keep this service in this month. So you know it's dealing with Shem and dealing more specifically with the sons of Yasharal through Yakub and this, that, and the other. But it just goes to show that this landmass, before Abraham was chosen for his faithfulness and obedience, it could have went to any son of Shem, this particular land of Canaan. But we know Abraham, due to our other studies, he's the one who found sight in the Most High. He's the one who found favor in the Most High sight. All right, last slide and we're done, dusted. Now, so we see Canaan was discontent with his land. Yeah, he wasn't happy with his land. All right, let's allow it. Canaan, a son, not all the sons of Ham, a son of Ham was not happy with his land and stole all the land that was allotted to Shem. Or not all the land, but a portion of the land that was allotted to Shem. Okay, boom. Now, Japheth also had the spirit of Canaan. He was discontent with the land. Notice, Japheth didn't really use no sedition though. He used the thing called diplomacy. He used the thing called moaning until you get what you want. Now, Jubilees 10:35. Jubilees 10:35. And Japheth and his sons went towards the sea and dwelt in the land of their portion. Remember, they're known as the maritime people, you know. And Madai saw the land of the sea, and it did not please him. So he didn't want to be on these islands, And he begged a portion from Ham and Asher and Arphaxad, his wife's brother. And he dwelt in the land of Media, near to his wife's brother, until this day. What was this place called in reference to this union? And he called his dwelling place the dwelling place of his sons, Media, after the name of his father, Madai. So, this is the last slide and we're done. So, Japheth wasn't happy with his land. He begged his brother, and his brother said, okay, I'll give you a cut out of our land, and you can have this land here. So you have the Medes and the Persians. The Mede element of the Medes and the Persians were the Japhetic people. Now, I'm going to add what I was going to add before, because I took it away. Let me add what I was going to add before, just to add more meat to the bones. Now, this is interesting. So, according to the editions of Esther, we had the Medes and the Persians. Now, when we were in the Persian captivity, they weren't nice to Yasharal, but they were the nicest out of all the other empires to Yasharal. And incidentally, they just happened to be a Shemitic nation, the Persians. The Mede element to the Persians happened to be a Japhetic part of the dynasty. And the Japhetic Mede Empire, they were trying to subdue the Persian element of the empire. So you had the Medes and the Persians, which we would call a coalition government, two nations running in tandem. But behind the scenes, the Japhetic kingdom of the Medes was trying to overthrow the Persians. And we see this in the story of Haman. Now Haman, we looked at this immensely in the study of Edom and Esau and the papacy. Anyway, very quickly, for by these means he sought, finding us destitute of friends, to translate the kingdom of the Persians to the Macedonians. So he was there, Haman, the Mede, there to overthrow the Persians. He was there for Macedonia. Okay, just adding more history to the history. Again, for Ammon, a Macedonian, the son of Adapha, being indeed a stranger from the Persian blood, and far distant from our goodness, and as a stranger received of us. So he was in the kingdom, the Persians and the Medes, but he was there as a spy really, to try to overthrow and bring the kingdom to his Japhetic people, take it away from the Shemites and bring it to his people. All right, now what else? Just to add to this bit of history. I think I'll leave it there. On that point, I'll leave that there. I could throw that in there too. So, the Persian king, I believe, promoted Haman, the son of the Haggai, and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. That's in Esther. Yeah, but his motive, this Mede's motive, was to overthrow Persia. And we see in the film The 300, the Persians, well, it should have been the Medes and the Persians, were battling with the Spartans, and eventually the Greeks, the Macedonians, took over from the Persian Empire. That's another story for another day. Going to wrap up very soon, very shortly. See a prophecy regarding Japheth, that the Most High shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servants. Japheth's still trying to expand himself. He's still not content with his landmass in the cold north. He's still trying to take over other people's land. But he uses diplomacy. He uses brute force as well, like Ham or like Canaan. But he uses a thing called diplomacy more often than not. So there you go. There's a snapshot of history. Now, like I said, the coronavirus, just touching on that briefly, it's decimating people. And it will kill people in this life. But the thing that will kill many people forever is sin. So if you guys are dealing or continuing to keep the coronavirus of sin in your life, and you're not asking the Most High Yahuwah to take that away through his son Yahushai, and you're holding on to that coronavirus of sin, then irrespective of if you get the coronavirus that will kill you, if you keep your coronavirus of sin, then you're going to be in a lost place. So I'm trying to encourage people in a nutshell to repent of their sins in general, not because of this hype and this craze, but just in general. Because it'll be a shame for you to have the mask on, walking around self-isolating, don't catch the coronavirus, but you still have the coronavirus of sin in your life, and you end up dying anyway. So I hope you found all of this interesting. And as always, provoking thought.